You have just lived with chronic pain for far too long, and every modern method seems to fail. Buddhist masters from over 2,500 years ago showed that pain is not only physical, your mind intensifies it or dissolves it. This ancient wisdom reveals 20 simple practices that free you from the cycle of resistance and anguish. It is not about willpower, it is about gentle presence. When you learn to observe without judgment, the body relaxes and the mind finds space to heal. The truth nobody told you. Your pain diminishes when you stop running from it. Prepare to sleep while listening to this video. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your like and comment from which part of the world you are watching. Get comfortable and relax. Let's begin. Pain is something we all experience. Yet for millions of people worldwide, pain isn't just an occasional visitor. It's a constant companion that fundamentally alters daily life. Living with chronic pain can feel like carrying an invisible burden that others cannot see or understand. Throughout human history, people have searched for ways to manage persistent pain, and some of the most effective approaches come from Buddhist traditions developed over thousands of years. These ancient practices offer surprisingly relevant tools for our modern understanding of pain management. Mindfulness stands at the heart of Buddhist approaches to pain management. But what exactly is mindfulness in this context? It's more than just being present or having a moment of calm. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness refers to a precise awareness of our current experience without immediate reaction or judgment. When applied to pain management, this skill becomes transformative because it changes our relationship with pain at a fundamental level. Most of us have automatic reactions to pain. When we feel it, we instinctively tense up, resist it, and become anxious about when it will end. This natural response actually amplifies our suffering. The Buddhist insight into pain management begins with a crucial distinction. While pain is often unavoidable, suffering is frequently optional. The physical sensation of pain and our emotional reaction to it are separate experiences that we typically blend together. This separation between pain sensation and emotional suffering isn't just philosophical, it has practical implications. When we practice mindfulness with pain, we learn to observe the actual sensations with curiosity rather than fear. Where exactly is the pain located? Does it have a shape or color? Is it constant? Or does it pulse, throb, or fluctuate in intensity? This detailed, non-judgmental observation creates a small but significant space between the sensation and our reaction to it. A person with chronic back pain might notice, for instance, that what they experience as my terrible back pain actually consists of several distinct sensations, perhaps a sharp stabbing feeling in one area, a dull ache in another, and warmth or tingling elsewhere. By bringing awareness to these specific qualities without immediately labeling them as bad or unbearable, something interesting happens. The pain doesn't necessarily go away, but our relationship with it shifts. This shift is supported by modern neuroscience. Brain imaging studies show that mindfulness meditation activates regions associated with pain regulation while decreasing activity in areas that process the emotional aspects of pain. People who practice mindfulness regularly develop greater density in brain areas responsible for attention regulation and sensory processing. In essence, mindfulness rewires our neural response to pain. The practice of mindfulness for pain management is remarkably straightforward, though not necessarily easy. You might begin with just 5 minutes daily, sitting comfortably and bringing gentle awareness to your breathing. When pain arises, rather than shifting position immediately or distracting yourself, you simply notice it. There's that burning sensation in my lower back again. You acknowledge its presence without adding stories like, "This is terrible," or "I can't stand this anymore." With practice, you might extend your observation to include thoughts and emotions that accompany the pain. "I notice I'm feeling frustrated that this pain is still here," or "I'm worrying about whether I can finish my tasks today." This level of awareness helps break the cycle where pain triggers negative thoughts, which increase stress, which then amplifies the pain sensation. One common misconception about mindfulness for pain is that it requires sitting still in formal meditation. While formal practice strengthens the skill, mindfulness can be applied throughout daily activities. You might practice mindful awareness while washing dishes, walking to your car, or during conversations with family. This integrated approach is particularly valuable for people with chronic pain, as it makes the practice accessible even during difficult days. The fluid relationship with pain that mindfulness cultivates allows for surprising moments of relief. Many practitioners report that even when the physical sensation remains unchanged, their suffering decreases substantially. One woman with fibromyalgia described it as, "The pain is still there, but it's no longer center stage in my life. It's moved to the background." Beyond immediate pain relief, mindfulness offers psychological benefits that address the isolation and depression often accompanying chronic conditions. The practice fosters self-compassion and reduces the tendency to define oneself entirely by pain. Rather than being a pain patient, one becomes a whole person experiencing pain as just one aspect of a rich and complex life. It's important to note that mindfulness isn't opposed to conventional medical treatments. In fact, it works synergistically with appropriate medication, physical therapy, and other interventions. Many pain management centers and hospitals now incorporate mindfulness training alongside traditional approaches, recognizing that addressing the mental component of pain is essential for comprehensive care. For someone beginning this practice, patience is crucial. The skills develop gradually, and there may be days when pain feels overwhelming despite your best efforts. This is normal and not a sign of failure. Each return to mindfulness, even after being swept away by pain, strengthens the neural pathways that support this different relationship with discomfort. Research consistently shows that people who maintain a regular mindfulness practice experience measurable improvements in pain intensity, physical functioning, and quality of life. These benefits tend to increase over time, suggesting that mindfulness creates lasting changes in how the brain processes pain signals. Perhaps most importantly, mindfulness restores a sense of choice and agency to people who often feel at the mercy of their pain. The most profound gift of mindfulness for chronic pain might be the discovery that even in the midst of physical discomfort, moments of peace, joy, and connection remain possible. By learning to work skillfully with pain rather than against it, many find a path to living fully despite persistent challenges. This doesn't minimize the reality of their condition, but offers a way to prevent pain from defining their entire existence. Vipassana meditation. Observing pain with detachment. Imagine being caught in a powerful current, struggling against the water with all your might. Now imagine instead floating on your back, observing the movement of the water while being carried along. This shift from resistance to observation mirrors what happens when we apply Vipassana meditation to chronic pain. This ancient Buddhist technique offers a specialized approach to working with persistent physical discomfort that goes beyond basic mindfulness. Vipassana, which translates to seeing things as they really are, is one of the oldest Buddhist meditation practices, dating back to the teachings of the Buddha himself. While mindfulness forms its foundation, Vipassana specifically emphasizes deep insight into the changing nature of all experiences, including pain. This meditation technique has gained recognition in recent decades as both a spiritual practice and an effective approach for working with challenging physical conditions. At its core, Vipassana meditation trains us to observe all sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, with the same detached interest. This equanimity becomes particularly valuable when dealing with pain. When intense discomfort arises, our instinctive reaction is to mentally push it away or become absorbed in it. Vipassana offers a third option, observing pain with balanced awareness. neither suppressing it nor becoming identified with it. The technique begins with establishing concentration through awareness of breathing. Once the mind has settled, attention expands to include all bodily sensations, moving systematically from head to toe. When pain is encountered, rather than shifting position immediately, the practitioner pauses and investigates it with precise awareness. This investigation isn't intellectual analysis, but direct experiential observation of the pain's qualities. A key insight of Vipassana is that what we experience as solid pain actually consists of sensations that arise, exist briefly, and then dissolve. Even severe chronic pain fluctuates moment by moment, though these subtle changes often go unnoticed when we're caught in resistance. By observing closely, practitioners begin to perceive these variations. The pain may intensify, decrease, change location, or transform in quality from moment to moment. This granular observation leads to a profound discovery. Pain isn't a solid, permanent entity, but a flowing process of sensations. One practitioner with arthritis described her experience. After 20 minutes of observation, I began to notice that what I called my knee pain was actually pulsing, moments of sharp sensation followed by dullness, followed by warmth. Between these sensations were tiny gaps I'd never noticed before. The technique teaches a specific approach to this observation. Instead of conceptualizing pain as my pain or even the pain, Vipassana practitioners learn to note simply sensation or feeling. This subtle shift in language helps create distance between the observer and the experience. The pain is no longer something happening to me, but simply a phenomenon arising in the field of awareness, like sounds, thoughts, or emotions. This observational distance doesn't mean becoming cold or dissociated from your experience. Rather, it's about developing a balanced, compassionate awareness that neither clings to pleasant sensations nor rejects unpleasant ones. This balance, a middle path between attachment and aversion, lies at the heart of the Buddha's teaching on suffering. A crucial principle in Vipassana is recognizing the three characteristics of all experience: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. Pain offers a particularly powerful opportunity to observe these qualities directly. The impermanence of pain becomes evident through careful observation. Even chronic conditions have moments of fluctuation. The unsatisfactory nature of pain is obvious, but Vipassana reveals how much of our suffering comes from fighting against this reality rather than from the sensation itself. The non-self aspect becomes clear as we notice how pain arises due to conditions rather than being an inherent part of our identity. The practice typically develops in stages. In the beginning, observing pain with detachment may be possible only for brief periods before the intensity becomes overwhelming. This is normal and not a failure. Even short periods of objective observation begin to change our relationship with pain. With continued practice, the periods of detached awareness naturally extend. One surprising discovery for many practitioners is that when observed with detached awareness, pain often transforms. It may not disappear completely, but its oppressive quality frequently diminishes. Areas of tension surrounding the primary pain site, often unconscious protective responses, may begin to release. Some practitioners report that the pain breaks up into smaller, more manageable components or even temporarily dissolves into vibration or energy. Vipassana retreats, which typically involve several days of intensive meditation in silence, offer especially powerful opportunities for developing this skill. During these retreats, participants maintain the same sitting posture for extended periods, which inevitably produces discomfort even for those without chronic conditions. This retreat pain becomes valuable training ground for working with sensation. However, the techniques can be equally valuable when practiced at home in shorter sessions adapted to individual needs. For those with chronic pain conditions, several practical adaptations make Vipassana more accessible. Physical posture can be modified with supportive cushions, chairs, or even a lying position. Sessions might be shorter initially. Even 5 or 10 minutes of dedicated observation can build the necessary skills. Some find it helpful to begin by observing mild or moderate pain before attempting to work with more intense sensations. A subtle but important aspect of the practice is maintaining an attitude of gentle interest rather than grim determination. There's a significant difference between forcing yourself to endure pain and curiously exploring its changing nature. The latter approach engages different neural pathways and tends to reduce the suffering component of pain, even when the sensation itself remains. The benefits extend beyond the meditation session. Many practitioners report developing greater resilience in dealing with pain flare-ups in daily life. The skills of observation and non-reactivity transfer to ordinary activities, allowing people to function more effectively despite discomfort. One man with chronic back pain noted, "Before Vipassana, a pain spike would shut down my whole day. Now I can observe it, acknowledge it, and still participate in what matters to me." Beyond pain management, Vipassana offers deeper existential benefits for those living with chronic conditions. The practice fosters acceptance not as resignation but as a clear-eyed recognition of current reality that paradoxically opens the door to positive change. By facing pain directly rather than constantly avoiding it, many find a sense of freedom and empowerment even amid physical limitations. The detachment developed through Vipassana isn't about disconnecting from life, but about relating to all experiences, including pain, with greater wisdom and less reactivity. This balanced awareness allows people with chronic pain to remain engaged with the richness of life rather than becoming defined by their condition. As one long-term practitioner expressed it, "Pain is still part of my daily experience, but thanks to Vipassana, it's no longer the whole story of who I am." While Vipassana meditation offers a powerful method for observing pain with detachment, Buddhist practice offers additional frameworks that can deepen our understanding of chronic pain. One of the most fundamental teachings that can transform our relationship with persistent pain is the Four Noble Truths, the cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy that provides both a diagnosis and treatment plan for human suffering. The Four Noble Truths present a remarkably practical approach to chronic pain that resonates with modern psychological understanding. The Buddha formulated these truths not as religious dogma, but as observations about human experience that we're invited to verify for ourselves. When applied to chronic pain, they offer a structured way to work with both the physical sensations and our mental responses to them. The first noble truth acknowledges the reality of suffering or dissatisfaction, dukkha. For someone with chronic pain, this truth can be validating. It recognizes that pain is a genuine part of human experience, not something imagined or exaggerated. There's a certain relief in this acknowledgement. Many people with chronic conditions report that having their pain dismissed by others causes almost as much suffering as the pain itself. The first truth says simply, yes, this pain is real, and it's challenging. However, the Buddhist understanding goes deeper than just acknowledging that pain exists. It distinguishes between primary pain, the actual physical sensation, and secondary suffering, our reactions, resistance, and mental distress about the pain. This distinction becomes crucial for developing effective coping strategies. While we might have limited control over primary pain sensations, we have much greater influence over the secondary suffering that often amplifies our experience. The second noble truth explores the origin of suffering, which the Buddha identified as craving or clinging. When experiencing chronic pain, several forms of craving intensify our distress. We crave for the pain to disappear. We cling to memories of how life was before the pain began, and we resist accepting our current reality. This resistance creates tension in both body and mind that often makes the pain worse. One person with fibromyalgia described it as fighting a war against my own body every day, a war that paradoxically increases her suffering. This insight doesn't mean we should blame ourselves for reacting naturally to pain. These responses are deeply ingrained. However, recognizing how our mental attitudes contribute to our overall experience of pain gives us somewhere to start working. It suggests that even if the pain itself cannot be completely eliminated, the suffering surrounding it might be reduced. The third noble truth offers hope by stating that the cessation of suffering is possible. In the context of chronic pain, this doesn't necessarily promise a complete cure or the total absence of discomfort. Rather, it suggests the possibility of freedom from the additional layers of mental and emotional suffering we add to physical pain. Even when pain persists, our relationship with it can fundamentally change, reducing its impact on our quality of life and well-being. This truth challenges the all-or-nothing thinking that often accompanies chronic conditions, the belief that either the pain must completely disappear, or we're doomed to misery. Buddhist practice suggests a middle way where improved well-being remains possible even with ongoing physical challenges. Many long-term practitioners report that while their pain hasn't vanished, it no longer controls their lives to the same extent. The fourth noble truth presents the Eightfold Path as a practical methodology for transforming our relationship with suffering, including pain. This path isn't linear but consists of 8 interconnected aspects that support each other: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. For someone dealing with chronic pain, right view might involve understanding pain not as punishment or disaster, but as a complex experience that can be worked with skillfully. Right intention includes cultivating attitudes of non-harm and compassion toward your own body rather than frustration or rejection. Right speech considers how we talk about our pain, both to ourselves in internal dialogue and to others, avoiding catastrophizing language that amplifies distress. Right action and right livelihood relate to making lifestyle choices that support well-being rather than exacerbate pain, whether that's pacing daily activities, maintaining appropriate boundaries, or finding work accommodations. Right effort involves balancing persistence with gentleness, working with pain without forcing or straining. The final 2 aspects, right mindfulness and right concentration, include the meditation practices discussed earlier that develop present moment awareness and mental stability. What makes this framework particularly valuable for chronic pain is its comprehensive nature. It addresses physical, psychological, social, and behavioral dimensions of pain, recognizing that all these aspects interact. Modern pain science confirms this multidimensional view, showing that chronic pain involves complex interactions between biological processes, thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and social factors. The practical application of the 4 noble truths to chronic pain might begin with honest assessment of your current situation, acknowledging the pain without minimizing or catastrophizing it. The next step involves observing your mental responses to pain with curiosity rather than judgment. Do you tend toward anger, despair, bargaining, or denial? How do these responses affect your experience? From there, you might explore ways to loosen the grip of resistance and craving, not by forcing yourself to accept pain, but by noticing how fighting against reality often increases tension. Small experiments with different responses to pain can reveal which approaches increase suffering and which reduce it. This process isn't about achieving a perfect state of acceptance, but about moving gradually toward a more workable relationship with pain. Many people find it helpful to work with these principles in a group context, whether in a Buddhist community, a secular mindfulness group, or a therapeutic pain management program. Sharing experiences with others who understand the challenges of chronic pain can reduce isolation and provide practical strategies that have helped others in similar situations. One significant benefit of applying the 4 noble truths to pain management is the sense of agency it fosters, rather than feeling helplessly at the mercy of pain. This approach identifies specific areas where positive change is possible. This restored sense of control often improves mood and reduces the anxiety that frequently accompanies chronic conditions. The Buddha's approach to suffering, including physical pain, was always pragmatic rather than theoretical. He compared himself to a doctor offering both diagnosis and treatment. This medical metaphor is particularly apt for chronic pain. The Four Noble Truths don't ask us to adopt new beliefs, but to try a different approach and see if it reduces our suffering. This experimental attitude aligns well with modern therapeutic approaches that emphasize workability over cure. Beyond specific techniques for managing pain, the Four Noble Truths offer a philosophical framework that helps make sense of the chronic pain experience. Many people struggle not just with pain itself, but with existential questions it raises. Why is this happening to me? What does this mean for my future? The Buddhist framework provides context for these questions without resorting to simplistic explanations or false promises. While working with the Four Noble Truths, many people discover that conscious breathing provides a practical foundation for implementing these principles moment by moment. The ancient practice of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, offers one of the most accessible and effective techniques for working directly with pain sensations as they arise in the body. Conscious breathing serves as a powerful anchor during intense pain episodes. When discomfort flares, our breathing typically becomes shallow, rapid, or irregular, often without our awareness. These breathing patterns activate the sympathetic nervous system, our fight-or-flight response, increasing muscle tension and stress hormones that can amplify pain. By consciously regulating the breath, we can interrupt this cycle and activate the parasympathetic rest and digest system instead. The beauty of breath-based techniques lies in their simplicity and availability. No special equipment is needed, and the practice can be done anywhere while sitting in a doctor's waiting room, lying in bed during a pain flare, or even during daily activities. This accessibility makes conscious breathing particularly valuable for people with conditions that limit mobility or energy. Basic anapanasati begins with simply noticing your natural breath without trying to change it. Where do you feel the breath most clearly? Perhaps at the nostrils, in the chest, or in the movement of the abdomen. This gentle observation itself often begins to slow and deepen the breathing naturally. From there, you might experiment with slightly extending the exhalation, which helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system and reduce tension. For working specifically with pain, several breath-focused approaches have proven effective. One technique involves visualizing breathing directly into areas of discomfort. With each inhalation, imagine sending the breath like a soothing current into the painful region. With each exhalation, visualize tension or discomfort flowing out of the body. While simple, this practice can significantly alter pain perception by changing your relationship with the affected area from avoidance to gentle attention. Another approach uses the breath to create a stable center of awareness from which to observe pain as a separate phenomenon. By anchoring attention firmly in the rhythmic sensation of breathing, you develop a solid observation platform that remains steady even when pain intensifies. From this stable awareness, pain can be observed with less reactivity and fear. The breath can also serve as a measurement tool for monitoring your response to pain. When pain increases, does your breathing become shallow or irregular? When you consciously deepen and smooth the breath, how does this affect the pain sensation? This feedback mechanism helps develop greater awareness of the connection between breathing patterns and pain intensity. For severe pain episodes, a technique called breathing through can be particularly helpful. This involves mentally dividing pain into manageable waves and using the breath to ride each wave. During intense moments, focus completely on one breath at a time, just this inhalation, just this exhalation. This narrow focus prevents the mind from projecting into the future with thoughts like, "I can't stand this anymore," or "this will never end," which often intensify suffering. The physiological benefits of conscious breathing for pain management are well documented. Deep, Slow breathing reduces the production of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which can increase inflammation and sensitivity to pain. It increases oxygen supply to tissues, promotes muscle relaxation, and can trigger the release of natural pain-relieving chemicals in the brain. Some studies suggest that regular practice of controlled breathing can help reduce pain sensitivity over time. Beyond these physical effects, conscious breathing helps address the emotional components of chronic pain. Anxiety, frustration, and hopelessness often accompany persistent pain, creating a vicious cycle where negative emotions amplify physical discomfort. The calming effect of regulated breathing helps interrupt this cycle, creating space for more balanced emotional responses. Anapanasati can be practiced at varying levels of intensity and duration depending on your condition and energy levels. On difficult days, even 3 to 5 minutes of conscious breathing can provide meaningful relief. As the practice develops, many people naturally extend their sessions, finding that longer periods of breath awareness create deeper states of relaxation and pain relief. The technique can be easily modified for different abilities and circumstances. For those who find sitting meditation uncomfortable, breath awareness can be practiced while lying down, walking, or even during gentle movement. Some people prefer to practice with eyes closed for deeper concentration, while others find keeping eyes softly open helps maintain alertness. Many practitioners find it helpful to combine breath awareness with gentle body scanning, systematically bringing attention to different regions of the body while maintaining awareness of the breath. This combined approach helps identify areas of tension that may be contributing to pain and allows for conscious relaxation of these areas. What makes breath-based practices particularly valuable for chronic pain is their cumulative effect. While each session provides immediate benefits through relaxation, the long-term practice gradually rewires the nervous system's response to pain signals. Regular practitioners often report not only feeling better during practice, but developing greater resilience when pain occurs in daily life. The relationship between conscious breathing and Buddhist understanding of pain runs deep. The breath serves as a constant reminder of impermanence. Each breath arises and passes away, just as pain sensations fluctuate and change. This direct experience of impermanence helps counter the feeling that pain is solid, permanent, and unchanging. Through conscious breathing, we discover that even within ongoing chronic conditions, our moment-to-moment experience remains fluid and workable, while conscious breathing offers immediate tools for working with pain sensations. The Eightfold Path provides a comprehensive framework that addresses every aspect of living with chronic pain. This integrated approach recognizes that pain affects not just our bodies, but our thoughts, speech, actions, work life, and relationships. By working with all these dimensions simultaneously, the path offers a holistic strategy for transforming our experience of pain. The Eightfold Path isn't meant to be followed in a strict sequence. Rather, all 8 aspects support and reinforce each other. For someone managing chronic pain, this path provides practical guidance for navigating daily challenges while working toward greater well-being. While we've touched on the Eightfold Path briefly when discussing the Four Noble Truths, exploring how each aspect specifically applies to pain management reveals its practical value. Right view forms the foundation of this approach, offering a realistic understanding of pain that avoids both denial and catastrophizing. It means seeing pain as it is, a complex physical experience influenced by countless factors, rather than attaching stories like, "This pain means I'm damaged forever," or "I must have done something to deserve this." Research shows that our beliefs about pain significantly impact our experience of it. People who view pain as a catastrophic threat typically suffer more than those who understand it as an unpleasant but workable situation. A woman with chronic back pain described how shifting her view transformed her experience. "For years, I saw my pain as punishment for overworking my body when I was younger. This view filled me with regret and hopelessness. Learning to see pain as just my nervous system being overprotective rather than a sign of permanent damage helped me focus on what I could do rather than what I'd lost. Right intention involves cultivating beneficial attitudes toward ourselves and our pain. Instead of approaching pain with fear, frustration, or hatred, we develop intentions of non-harm and compassion. This doesn't mean pretending to like pain, but rather choosing not to create additional suffering through negative attitudes. When pain flares, we might consciously set an intention. May I respond to this difficulty with kindness rather than frustration? Right speech addresses how we talk about our pain, both in our internal dialogue and in conversations with others. Many people with chronic conditions develop habits of catastrophic language. "This pain is killing me," or "I can't stand another minute of this." While understandable, this way of speaking often amplifies distress. Practicing right speech means developing more accurate and balanced language. "This pain is intense right now, but it has been manageable before and will be again." How we communicate with healthcare providers, family, and friends also falls under right speech. Finding ways to describe pain clearly without dramatization or minimization can lead to better support and treatment. Many people find it helpful to develop a specific vocabulary for their pain, distinguishing between sharp, dull, burning, or throbbing sensations, rather than just rating intensity on a numerical scale. Right action encompasses the physical behaviors and lifestyle choices that influence pain levels. This might include appropriate exercise, proper body mechanics, pacing daily activities, and adhering to treatment plans. It also means avoiding actions that consistently worsen pain, such as overexertion during good periods followed by complete inactivity during flares, a common cycle that maintains chronic pain conditions. One particularly important aspect of right action is breaking the pain tension cycle. When we experience pain, we naturally tense muscles around the painful area as a protective response. However, this tension often increases discomfort and restricts blood flow to affected tissues. Regular body scans to identify and release unconscious tension become a crucial form of right action. Right livelihood relates to how we manage work and responsibilities while living with pain. For some, this might involve negotiating accommodations with employers or shifting to different types of work that put less strain on the body. For others, it means redefining productivity and contribution beyond conventional employment. The key principle is finding ways to engage in meaningful activity without exacerbating pain. A teacher with fibromyalgia described her approach. "I couldn't keep standing all day in the classroom, but I didn't want to leave education. I worked with my principal to create a position developing curriculum and mentoring new teachers. This keeps me connected to my calling while respecting my body's limitations." Right effort involves finding the middle path between pushing too hard and giving up. With chronic pain, there's a constant balancing act, doing enough to maintain function and engagement with life, but not so much that you trigger severe flares. This balance requires tuning into subtle body signals and respecting them before pain becomes overwhelming. This aspect of the path also addresses mental effort, working skillfully with thoughts and emotions related to pain. When catastrophic thoughts arise, this pain will never end. Right effort means neither fighting these thoughts nor believing them uncritically. Instead, we acknowledge their presence and gently redirect attention to more helpful perspectives. Right mindfulness, which we've explored in previous topics, involves maintaining present moment awareness of body sensations, thoughts, emotions, and environmental factors that influence pain. This continuous awareness helps identify patterns and triggers that might otherwise go unnoticed. For example, many people discover connections between stress, weather changes, or specific movements and pain flares once they begin paying careful attention. Right concentration develops the mind's ability to remain steady and focused even amid discomfort. Through practices like meditation on the breath or body scanning, we strengthen the mental muscle of concentration. This stability becomes invaluable during pain flares, allowing us to keep our attention balanced rather than being completely absorbed by pain sensations. A man with chronic nerve pain described using concentration practice during difficult moments. When the pain gets intense, I focus completely on my breathing for 20 breaths. This doesn't make the pain disappear, but it helps me remember that I'm more than just this sensation. There's still a center of awareness that isn't consumed by the pain. What makes the Eightfold Path particularly valuable for chronic pain management is its comprehensive nature. Rather than offering a single technique, it provides a complete lifestyle approach that addresses every aspect of living with pain. Each component of the path supports the others. Right view makes right action possible. Right mindfulness enhances right concentration, and so on. This holistic framework also aligns with modern pain science, which recognizes chronic pain as a biopsychosocial phenomenon affected by biological processes, psychological factors, and social context. The Eightfold Path addresses all these dimensions, offering practical guidance for navigating each aspect of the pain experience. People who apply this framework consistently report significant improvements in quality of life, even when pain sensations remain, by transforming their relationship with pain across multiple dimensions. They often find themselves able to engage more fully in meaningful activities despite continuing discomfort. This shift from being controlled by pain to working skillfully with it represents the path's central promise. While the Eightfold Path provides a comprehensive framework for managing pain, many practitioners discover that cultivating compassion, both for oneself and others, becomes especially crucial in this journey. Karuna, compassion, in Buddhist practice, means being touched by suffering and responding with kindness and a wish to help. When applied to our own pain experience, this quality becomes a powerful healing force. Chronic pain naturally triggers difficult emotions, frustration with physical limitations, grief for lost capabilities, and often anger at one's own body. Many people develop harsh internal dialogues, criticizing themselves for not recovering faster or pushing through pain. I should be stronger than this, or other people manage to work full-time with this condition, are common self-critical thoughts. This self-judgment creates an additional layer of emotional suffering on top of physical pain. Self-compassion offers an alternative response. Rather than berating ourselves for having limitations, we can acknowledge our suffering with kindness. This is really difficult right now. Many people would struggle with this level of pain. This shift from self-criticism to self-kindness doesn't deny the reality of pain or remove responsibility for self-care. Instead, it creates an internal environment where healing becomes more possible. Neuroscience research helps explain why self-compassion benefits those with chronic pain. Self-criticism activates the threat defense system, increasing stress hormones like cortisol that can intensify inflammation and pain sensitivity. In contrast, self-compassionate responses activate the mammalian caregiving system, releasing oxytocin and opioid peptides that have natural pain-relieving effects. Essentially, how we relate to ourselves during pain directly influences our neurophysiology. A formal practice for developing self-compassion begins with acknowledging suffering when pain is present. This hurts. This is really challenging right now. Next comes recognizing that pain and limitation are part of the shared human experience, not personal failings. Many people struggle with chronic pain. I'm not alone in this difficulty. Finally, offering kindness to yourself. May I be gentle with myself during this flare. May I give my body what it needs right now. This practice can feel unnatural at first, especially for those accustomed to pushing through pain or minimizing their struggles. One woman with rheumatoid arthritis shared, "I was raised to be tough and never complain. Treating myself with compassion initially felt weak or self-indulgent, but I found it actually helps me make better decisions about my health and energy. When I'm kind to myself, I can listen to what my body needs instead of forcing myself to keep going until I crash." Beyond formal practice, self-compassion manifests in practical daily choices, resting when needed without self-judgment, asking for help without shame, celebrating small accomplishments rather than focusing only on limitations. It means treating your body as you would treat a good friend, with patience, understanding, and care. The compassionate approach extends to working with emotions that arise around pain. Fear, frustration, grief, and anger naturally emerge when living with persistent discomfort. Instead of judging these emotions or trying to suppress them, compassion means acknowledging them with understanding. Of course, I feel frustrated when pain prevents me from participating in activities I enjoy. This is a natural response. This emotional awareness prevents the downward spiral where negative emotions about pain create muscle tension and stress, which then increase pain, triggering more negative emotions. Breaking this cycle through compassionate awareness can significantly reduce suffering, even when the primary pain sensation remains unchanged. Compassion practice also extends beyond self to include others experiencing pain. Many people with chronic conditions find that connecting with others facing similar challenges reduces isolation and provides perspective. Compassion for others' suffering helps us recognize the universal nature of pain rather than seeing it as a personal burden or failure. Support groups, whether in person or online, provide opportunities to practice this broader compassion. Listening to others' struggles with an open heart and offering understanding creates a healing environment for everyone involved. Many people report that supporting others paradoxically reduces their own suffering by shifting attention from self-focused rumination to connected presence. This bidirectional compassion creates what Buddhists call sympathetic joy, the ability to appreciate moments of happiness and freedom from pain, whether experienced by ourselves or others. This quality becomes particularly valuable when pain fluctuates, allowing genuine celebration of good days without fear or attachment. Healthcare relationships also benefit from the compassionate approach. Rather than viewing medical providers as adversaries when treatments don't provide complete relief, patients can recognize that healthcare workers often share the frustration of not being able to fix chronic pain. This compassionate perspective facilitates more collaborative relationships and better communication. One particularly powerful aspect of compassion practice involves working directly with the painful body part itself. Many people develop an adversarial relationship with painful areas, seeing them as broken, defective, or betraying the rest of the body. Conscious practices of directing kindness and care toward these specific regions can transform this relationship. A simple meditation involves placing a hand gently on or near the painful area, if touch doesn't increase discomfort, and silently offering good wishes. May this shoulder heal as much as possible. May it feel supported and safe. This practice counters the tendency to tense against pain or mentally push away the affected area, which often increases both physical and emotional distress. Research on self-compassion for chronic pain shows impressive results. Multiple studies demonstrate that higher self-compassion correlates with lower pain intensity, greater pain acceptance, improved mood, and better quality of life among people with various chronic pain conditions. Interventions specifically designed to increase self-compassion have shown effectiveness in reducing pain-related disability, depression, and anxiety. Physiologically, compassion practices influence systems directly related to pain processing. They reduce activity in brain regions associated with threat and negative emotion, while activating areas involved in positive emotion and affiliative feelings. They lower inflammatory markers, improve heart rate variability, an indicator of stress resilience, and promote better sleep quality, all factors that influence pain experience. For those whose pain connects to trauma or adverse experiences, compassion practices offer particularly valuable healing resources. Many chronic pain conditions have stronger impacts among people with histories of childhood adversity or traumatic events. The gentle, non-judgmental awareness cultivated in compassion practice provides a safe way to work with these complex mind-body connections. The integration of compassion with other Buddhist approaches creates a comprehensive pain management strategy. While mindfulness helps us observe pain with clarity, compassion addresses the emotional response to what we observe. While the Eightfold Path provides structure for working with pain, compassion offers the heart quality that sustains us through difficult moments. Together, these practices create both the wisdom and the emotional resilience needed to transform our relationship with pain over time. While compassion practices offer a heartfelt response to pain, understanding impermanence, anicca in Pali, provides the wisdom perspective that can fundamentally transform how we experience persistent discomfort. This principle of impermanence stands as one of Buddhism's 3 marks of existence, and when applied specifically to chronic pain, it offers insights that many find liberating. At first glance, chronic pain seems to contradict the concept of impermanence. After all, conditions like arthritis, neuropathy, or back pain often persist for years or even decades. People frequently describe their pain as constant, unchanging, and permanent. I've been in pain every single day for 15 years. This perception of permanence significantly contributes to suffering, creating a sense that this is forever and nothing will ever change. The weight of this perceived permanence can lead to hopelessness and depression that compound the physical discomfort. However, when we look more closely at our moment-to-moment experience, something interesting becomes apparent. Even in chronic conditions, pain isn't actually static. It fluctuates, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, throughout the day and from one day to the next. Intensity, location, quality, and associated symptoms all shift and change, though we often miss these variations because our attention naturally focuses on the peaks of discomfort rather than the valleys or transitions. Mindfully observing pain over time reveals these fluctuations. A woman with fibromyalgia described her discovery. When I started really paying attention, I realized my pain wasn't the same solid thing all day. There were moments when it eased slightly while I was absorbed in conversation. There were changes in where I felt it most intensely from morning to evening. It wasn't one permanent pain, but rather waves of different sensations. This direct observation of impermanence doesn't deny the reality of chronic conditions, but offers a more accurate perception that can reduce suffering. When we recognize that pain naturally waxes and wanes, intense moments become more bearable because we know from experience that some shift, however subtle, will eventually occur. This perspective counters the catastrophic thinking that often accompanies pain. This terrible feeling will last forever. The principle of impermanence also applies to how our body responds to pain over time. Many chronic pain conditions involve central sensitization, a process where the nervous system becomes increasingly reactive to pain signals. However, neuroplasticity works in both directions. Just as the brain can become more sensitive to pain, it can also adapt in ways that reduce pain processing. Meditation practices that cultivate awareness of impermanence directly engage these neuroplastic mechanisms, gradually recalibrating the pain response system. Beyond observing the changing nature of pain itself, Anika invites us to notice how our relationship with pain transforms over time. Someone newly diagnosed with a chronic condition often experiences intense fear, resistance, and grief. 5 years later, that same person may have developed coping strategies, acceptance, and resilience that significantly change their experience, even if the underlying condition remains. This evolution reminds us that our response to pain isn't fixed but continuously developing. A practical approach to working with impermanence begins with deliberate attention to change within pain experiences. During a pain flare, you might set a timer for 5 minutes and observe with curiosity. Does the intensity remain exactly the same for the entire 5 minutes? Or does it fluctuate even slightly? Does it stay in precisely the same location? Or does it shift? Is the quality sharp, dull, burning, etc. absolutely consistent? Or does it vary? Most people discover more variability than they expected. Another practice involves noticing the spaces between intense pain episodes. Chronic pain often commands all our attention when it's strong but becomes background noise during less intense periods. By consciously registering these relatively easier moments, right now, my pain is at a manageable level, we counteract the brain's tendency to generalize from the worst experiences. This balanced awareness prevents the common distortion where we remember and anticipate only the peaks of pain. The concept of impermanence also offers perspective on pain treatments and management strategies. Many people become discouraged when a previously effective approach stops working as well, seeing this as a failure or evidence that nothing helps. Understanding anicca helps us recognize that both pain and our responses to it naturally change over time, necessitating evolution in our approach. Rather than seeking the one perfect solution, we develop a toolkit of strategies that can be adapted as needs change. Daily fluctuations in pain also become less anxiety-provoking when viewed through the lens of impermanence. A pain spike that might have previously triggered catastrophic thinking, "It's getting worse, I'll never function again," can be seen more accurately as part of the natural variation of the condition. This perspective doesn't diminish the very real challenge of increased pain, but removes the additional layer of panic that often accompanies it. Weather systems offer a helpful way to understand this approach. Just as we experience rainy seasons and dry periods, cold snaps and heat waves, pain conditions have their patterns of variation. We don't expect a single day's weather to represent the permanent climate. Yet we often interpret a bad pain day as evidence of permanent deterioration. Recognizing impermanence helps restore a longer view where fluctuations are expected rather than catastrophized. This understanding of impermanence isn't merely philosophical, but has practical implications for daily life with chronic pain. It influences decisions about activity planning, medication use, and communication with others. When we truly understand that pain naturally fluctuates, we can plan activities with this reality in mind, taking advantage of better periods while having backup plans for more difficult times. The recognition of impermanence also fosters resilience. Many people with chronic pain describe hitting emotional rock bottom when they believe their situation is permanent and unchangeable. The perspective shift that comes with understanding anicca, seeing that no state, however difficult, remains exactly the same forever, often provides the emotional resilience needed to continue adapting and finding new approaches. For healthcare providers working with chronic pain patients, incorporating this principle can significantly improve communication and treatment planning. Rather than setting expectations of permanent cure or complete elimination of pain, discussions can acknowledge the naturally changing nature of pain experiences while working toward manageable improvement. This nuanced approach prevents the disappointment cycle, where treatments that reduce but don't eliminate pain are seen as failures. Perhaps most importantly, embracing impermanence allows hope without denial. It doesn't require pretending that chronic conditions will magically disappear, but it does open space for positive change within even long-term situations. This balanced perspective, neither falsely optimistic nor needlessly pessimistic, creates the mental conditions where both acceptance and improvement become possible. A man who had lived with back pain for over 20 years expressed this balanced view. Understanding impermanence didn't make my condition go away, but it completely changed how I live with it. I stopped seeing myself as permanently broken. Instead, I learned to work with the rhythms of better and worse days. to notice small improvements, and to believe that adaptation is always possible. That shift from permanent suffering to changing experience made all the difference in my quality of life. While understanding impermanence gives us wisdom about the changing nature of pain, metta meditation offers a direct practice for transforming our emotional relationship with discomfort. Metta, often translated as loving kindness or boundless friendliness, cultivates a quality of warm, open-hearted goodwill toward ourselves and others. When applied specifically to chronic pain, this practice creates a radical shift away from the aversion, anger, and hostility that naturally arise in response to persistent discomfort. Our instinctive reaction to pain is aversion. We want it to go away. We resist its presence. We may even develop hatred toward our own body for failing us. This adversarial relationship with pain, while completely understandable, often increases both physical tension and emotional distress. Metta practice doesn't ask us to like pain or pretend it's pleasant, but rather to meet it with a different quality of attention, one characterized by kindness rather than hostility. The practice typically begins with developing loving kindness toward yourself, which becomes especially important when chronic pain has damaged your relationship with your body. Many people with persistent pain develop an internal narrative of betrayal. My body has let me down, or I'm trapped in a body that doesn't work. This adversarial relationship often manifests as tension, bracing against discomfort, and a disconnection from bodily signals that can actually worsen pain cycles. Metta meditation offers a path to reconciliation with the body, even when it continues to experience pain. The practice involves silently repeating phrases that express well wishes, such as "May I be safe, ... May I be healthy, may I live with ease, or may I be kind to this body with all its challenges." These aren't magical incantations, but tools for reorienting attention away from hostility and toward care. A basic metta practice might begin with sitting or lying in a comfortable position and bringing awareness to the breath for a few moments. Then, placing a hand on your heart or another comforting location, you silently offer yourself these wishes of well-being. When attention wanders or pain intrudes, you simply notice this and gently return to the phrases. Some people find it helpful to visualize these good wishes as light or warmth flowing through the body, especially into areas of pain or tension. For those with significant pain, customizing the traditional phrases can make the practice more relevant. Phrases like, "May I be as comfortable as possible in this moment," "May I respond to pain with kindness rather than frustration," or "May I remember that I am more than this pain, acknowledge current limitations while still cultivating a benevolent attitude." The physiological effects of metta practice are particularly relevant for pain conditions. Research shows that cultivating positive emotions like kindness and compassion activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing the stress response that often amplifies pain. Regular practice decreases inflammation markers and improves heart rate variability, a measure of how well the body regulates stress. These biological changes create conditions where pain signals may be processed differently by the brain. Beyond physical benefits, metta practice directly addresses the emotional suffering that accompanies chronic pain. Living with persistent discomfort often triggers feelings of anger, isolation, and hopelessness that can be as debilitating as the physical sensations. By intentionally cultivating positive emotional states, metta provides a counterbalance to these difficult feelings without denying their presence. After developing some facility with self-directed loving kindness, the practice traditionally expands to include others. First, a beloved person, then a neutral person, then someone difficult, and finally, all beings. This expansion helps counteract the tendency for chronic pain to narrow focus onto personal suffering, which can increase feelings of isolation and self-absorption that often accompany long-term conditions. A woman with chronic migraine described how this expanded practice changed her experience. When I started including others in my metta practice, especially other people with chronic pain, something shifted. I realized I wasn't alone in this struggle. On days when I can barely function because of pain, I remember the millions of others also trying to get through their day with migraine or other conditions. Somehow, that shared experience makes my own situation feel less personal and overwhelming. The practice develops incrementally, beginning with brief sessions during relatively low pain periods. With experience, many practitioners find they can access these qualities of kindness even during more intense episodes. One man with neuropathic pain described using short metta phrases as emotional pain relief during flares. When the burning sensation gets really intense, I place my hand near the painful area and silently repeat, "May this pain be bearable. May I be kind to myself right now." It doesn't make the sensation disappear, but it helps me stay emotionally balanced instead of spiraling into panic or depression. Metta practice also addresses the relationship difficulties that often accompany chronic pain. Limited energy and capacity can strain relationships with family, friends, and colleagues who may not understand the invisible nature of many pain conditions. The frustration of being misunderstood or having needs unmet can lead to resentment and conflict. By including these challenging relationships in metta practice, may my family member who doesn't understand my limitations be well. May we find ways to communicate better. We create internal conditions that support more constructive interactions. This doesn't replace direct communication about needs and boundaries, but provides emotional grounding that makes those conversations more effective. Loving kindness practice can be adapted for different energy levels and pain intensities. On difficult days, even 30 seconds of placing a hand on your heart and offering one simple phrase of kindness can activate the physiological benefits. During better periods, longer formal sessions might be possible. Many people integrate brief metta moments throughout the day, perhaps when taking medication, preparing for challenging activities, or noticing negative self-talk about their condition. Importantly, metta isn't about forcing positive feelings or denying legitimate frustration with chronic pain. The practice acknowledges that living with persistent discomfort is genuinely difficult while offering tools to prevent that difficulty from completely defining our emotional landscape. It creates space for moments of warmth, connection, and even joy to exist alongside the reality of pain. The cumulative effect of regular practice extends beyond the meditation sessions themselves. Over time, many practitioners report a general softening of their response to pain, less immediate resistance, less catastrophic thinking, more ability to hold difficult sensations within a larger field of awareness and care. This shift doesn't happen overnight but develops gradually, like strengthening a muscle through consistent exercise. The transformation that metta practice creates in our relationship with pain connects closely with one of the most misunderstood concepts in Buddhist pain management: acceptance. Many people initially resist the idea of accepting chronic pain, assuming it means giving up hope for improvement or resigning themselves to suffering. This misunderstanding can prevent people from exploring one of the most powerful approaches to living well despite persistent discomfort. The Buddhist concept of acceptance is fundamentally different from resignation and offers a path forward that neither denies reality nor surrenders to hopelessness. True acceptance in the Buddhist tradition is an active, clear-sighted recognition of present reality rather than passive resignation. It begins with acknowledging what is actually happening right now without adding layers of resistance, denial, or catastrophizing. This straightforward recognition might sound simple but proves remarkably challenging when what we're accepting is ongoing pain. Our natural tendency is to fight against pain, mentally arguing with reality. This shouldn't be happening to me, or I can't bear this anymore. This resistance, while completely understandable, often creates additional suffering beyond the primary pain sensation. When we mentally fight against what's already present, we create muscle tension, stress hormones, and emotional distress that typically amplify pain signals. The first step in acceptance practice is recognizing this counterproductive pattern of resistance and its costs. A woman with chronic back pain described her experience. For the first 3 years after my injury, I spent enormous energy fighting reality. I couldn't accept that my body had changed. This constant battle left me exhausted, depressed, and ironically, in more pain because I was always tense and angry. Learning acceptance didn't mean I stopped seeking treatment or gave up hope. It meant I stopped wasting energy fighting the fact that right now, in this moment, pain is present. This distinction between accepting the present moment and resigning yourself to a permanently unchanged future is crucial. Buddhist acceptance is always focused on what's happening now, not on predictions about what will always be. It acknowledges that the present includes both the reality of pain and the possibility of change, both the limitations of your condition and your capacity to work skillfully within those limitations. The paradox of acceptance is that it often creates the conditions where positive change becomes more possible. When we stop expending energy fighting reality, resources become available for healing and adaptation. The tension patterns that frequently maintain or amplify pain can begin to release. The mental clarity that comes with acceptance allows us to see constructive actions that might have been obscured by denial or resistance. A physical therapist who works with chronic pain patients and practices Buddhist meditation herself observed, "I can usually tell within a few sessions which patients will make the most progress. It's not about the severity of their condition, but about their relationship with it. Those who can acknowledge their current limitations without defining themselves by them. Who can work at the edge of discomfort without pushing into severe pain. They consistently show the most improvement." That's acceptance in action. Developing acceptance typically happens in stages rather than all at once. Many people begin with intellectual understanding, recognizing logically that fighting reality increases suffering, but still experience strong emotional resistance. This gap between understanding and emotional reality is normal and requires gentle persistence rather than self-criticism. Formal meditation practices can help develop acceptance. One approach involves sitting quietly and intentionally inviting awareness of pain sensations with the mental note, "This too is happening," or simply accepting. When resistance arises, as it naturally will, this too becomes part of what we practice accepting, without judgment or additional struggle. Body-focused practices also support acceptance. Consciously relaxing areas that tense against pain, softening the face and jaw, and releasing the breath all signal to the nervous system that while pain is present, you're not in emergency mode because of it. This physiological state of non-resistance creates space for the pain to be present without triggering the cascade of stress responses that amplify suffering. Acceptance extends beyond physical sensations to include difficult emotions that accompany chronic pain. Feelings of grief, frustration, fear, or sadness naturally arise when living with ongoing discomfort and limitation. True acceptance means making room for these emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Rather than judging yourself for feeling discouraged or trying to force positive emotions, you acknowledge what's genuinely present. "Of course I feel frustrated today." That's a natural response to this situation. Language plays an important role in cultivating acceptance. Notice phrases that signal non-acceptance. "I can't stand this." "Why me?" "This is unbearable." "I just want my old life back." While these responses are completely understandable, they often function as fuel for increased suffering. Alternative phrasings support acceptance. "This is difficult, but I can be with it." "This is how it is right now." "I'm having a hard day with pain, and that's okay." Acceptance doesn't mean abandoning medical treatment or appropriate pain management. In fact, It often leads to more effective use of available resources because decisions come from clear seeing rather than desperation or denial. Someone practicing acceptance might still pursue new treatments, use medication when appropriate, or work with physical therapists and other providers. The difference lies in the underlying attitude, working with reality rather than fighting against it. A crucial aspect of Buddhist acceptance involves recognizing that conditions constantly change. As we discussed regarding impermanence, accepting present pain doesn't mean believing it will be exactly the same forever. It means acknowledging current reality while remaining open to the natural unfolding of change. This balanced perspective prevents both the denial that creates tension and the resignation that leads to hopelessness. Many people find that group support facilitates acceptance. Hearing how others have navigated similar challenges without surrendering to hopelessness can provide both practical strategies and emotional reassurance. Buddhist communities, sanghas, focusing on chronic illness and pain, have developed in many areas, offering spaces where acceptance is understood as an active, empowering practice rather than passive resignation. The differences between acceptance and resignation appear clearly in daily life choices. Someone practicing resignation might think, "I'll always be in pain, so why bother trying anything new?" and withdraw from activities. Someone practicing acceptance might think, "I have pain today, and within that reality, what's possible? What small step can I take toward what matters to me?" This active engagement with life despite difficulties represents the heart of Buddhist acceptance. The ultimate test of acceptance comes not in how we think about it, but in how we live. Does our approach increase freedom and possibility within the constraints of our condition? Or does it narrow our world? Does it help us engage with what matters most despite pain? Or does it become an excuse for withdrawal? Does it reduce suffering even when pain persists? Or does it add layers of struggle to physical discomfort? These practical outcomes reveal whether we're practicing true acceptance or slipping into resignation. A man who had lived with rheumatoid arthritis for over 15 years summarized the distinction. Resignation says, "This is how it is, period. Acceptance says, "This is how it is right now. And within this reality, I can still make choices about how I respond." That difference, between a period and a comma, completely changes how I live with pain. While developing this mental approach of acceptance is essential for chronic pain management, equally important is how we work with the body itself. Buddhist traditions have developed sophisticated systems of gentle movement practices specifically designed to address physical discomfort and limitation. These approaches offer practical tools for directly working with the body even when pain restricts normal activities or exercise. Buddhist yoga differs significantly from many contemporary Western yoga styles that emphasize athletic achievement or complex postures. Instead, it focuses on mindful, gentle movements performed with complete attention to sensation and breath. This approach makes it particularly suitable for people with chronic pain conditions who might find more vigorous forms of exercise inaccessible or counterproductive. The foundation of Buddhist movement practice is the principle of non-harming, ahimsa. Unlike approaches that push through pain to achieve fitness goals, these practices respect the body's current limitations while gently exploring its capacity. This mindset shift from conquering the body to listening to the body creates a fundamentally different relationship with pain during movement. A typical practice might begin with a period of stillness, noticing the body's current state without immediate judgment or agenda. This baseline awareness helps practitioners recognize existing tension patterns and areas of relative ease before introducing movement. From this foundation of awareness, gentle movements are introduced with close attention to their effects, not just during the activity, but afterward as well. Many Buddhist movement traditions emphasize very small, subtle adjustments rather than large ranges of motion. These micro-movements allow exploration of mobility within a pain-free range. For example, instead of doing a full forward bend that might trigger back pain, a practitioner might tilt the pelvis forward just a few millimeters, noticing the sensations this creates throughout the spine. This precise awareness helps identify and release unconscious holding patterns that often maintain or exacerbate chronic pain. Breath awareness integrates deeply with these movement practices. The quality of breathing, whether smooth or restricted, shallow or deep, provides immediate feedback about how the body is responding to movement. Pain typically triggers breath holding or shallow breathing, which increases tension and reduces oxygen flow to tissues. By maintaining smooth, unrestricted breathing during gentle movement, practitioners signal safety to the nervous system, potentially reducing pain responses. Several specific movement traditions within Buddhism offer valuable approaches for pain management. Mindful walking meditation provides a structured way to bring awareness to an everyday activity often compromised by pain. Rather than walking automatically while the mind dwells on discomfort, practitioners focus intensely on the sensations of each step, the pressure on the foot, the shift of weight, the movement of joints. This concentrated awareness often reveals compensatory patterns developed to avoid pain, which paradoxically may create new problems over time. Traditional Buddhist yoga postures can be modified for different pain conditions and mobility levels. The emphasis remains on mindful awareness rather than achieving specific shapes or positions. A single simple movement might be explored for several minutes with complete attention, noticing subtle sensations that would be missed during faster-paced exercise. This slow, deliberate approach allows the nervous system to process movement differently, potentially reducing protective pain responses. Qigong and Tai Chi, which have connections to Buddhist traditions, offer flowing movement sequences that improve circulation, balance, and body awareness. Their emphasis on continuous, gentle motion without jarring or straining makes them appropriate for many chronic pain conditions. Research shows these practices can significantly reduce pain and improve function in conditions like fibromyalgia, arthritis, and lower back pain. Their standing postures can be modified for seated practice when necessary, making them adaptable to different ability levels. A 67-year-old woman with osteoarthritis described her experience. "After my diagnosis, I thought exercise was over for me. Regular gym workouts left me in terrible pain for days. Learning modified Tai Chi completely changed my relationship with movement. The slow, gentle approach doesn't trigger pain flares, and I've gradually regained mobility I thought was lost forever. Most importantly, I've stopped being afraid of moving my body." Beyond formal practices, Buddhist movement principles can be integrated into daily activities. Simple tasks like washing dishes, preparing food, or getting dressed become opportunities to move with mindful awareness. This integration helps break the cycle where pain leads to movement avoidance, which leads to deconditioning, which then increases pain when movement becomes necessary. The timing and pacing of movement prove crucial for chronic pain conditions. Buddhist approaches emphasize working with natural energy rhythms rather than pushing through fatigue or pain. Practitioners learn to recognize their optimal windows for movement, perhaps shorter sessions distributed throughout the day rather than one longer session, or moving during times of day when pain is typically less intense. This individualized approach respects the unique patterns of each person's condition. A physical approach particularly relevant for pain management is gentle self-massage or touch. Buddhist traditions include practices of mindfully placing hands on areas of discomfort with an attitude of kindness rather than attempting to force change. This compassionate touch can activate parasympathetic nervous system responses that reduce tension and support the body's natural healing processes. The social dimension of movement also receives attention in Buddhist practice. While some traditions emphasize solitary practice, others recognize the value of moving together in community. Group practice provides motivation, accountability, and the emotional benefits of shared experience. For people with chronic pain who often feel isolated by their condition, moving gently with others who understand their challenges can be profoundly healing. Research increasingly supports the efficacy of these mindful movement approaches for chronic pain. Studies show they reduce pain intensity, improve function, and enhance quality of life across various conditions. The mechanisms appear to include improved body awareness, reduced muscle guarding, increased circulation, and nervous system regulation. Perhaps most importantly, these practices help people rebuild a positive relationship with their bodies after pain has damaged this connection. An important consideration for implementing Buddhist movement practices is finding qualified guidance from teachers who understand chronic pain. Ideally, instructors should have both training in the traditional practices and knowledge of how to modify them appropriately for different conditions. Many Buddhist centers now offer specialized classes for people with physical limitations, and online resources have made these approaches more accessible than ever before. The combination of mindful movement with the acceptance practices discussed earlier creates a powerful approach to chronic pain. The mental attitude of acceptance creates space to explore movement without fear or excessive caution, while the physical experience of moving safely within pain limitations reinforces the possibility of living actively despite chronic conditions. Together, these practices address both the physical and psychological dimensions of pain, offering a truly comprehensive approach to reclaiming quality of life. The mindful movement practices we've explored offer tangible ways to work with the physical body, but Buddhist approaches to pain don't stop at the physical level. They also address how we conceptualize our relationship with pain at the deepest level of identity. One of the most powerful concepts for chronic pain management comes from the Buddhist understanding of anatta, or non-self, the recognition that our experience of having a solid, unchanging identity is actually a mental construction rather than an ultimate reality. While this might initially sound abstract, its practical applications for chronic pain management are profound and potentially life-changing. Many people with chronic pain gradually develop what psychologists call pain identity, a sense that pain defines who they are. You might hear someone say, "I am a migraine sufferer," or "I am my back pain." This identification happens naturally over time as pain demands more attention and influences more life decisions. The language we use reflects this merger of identity with pain. My fibromyalgia or my arthritis implies ownership and identification with the condition. This identification creates several problems for effective pain management. First, it makes any threat to the pain feel like a threat to identity itself. If I am my pain, then what remains of me if the pain changes? This unconscious attachment can create psychological resistance to improvement. Second, complete identification with pain narrows our self-perception, overshadowing other aspects of identity, roles, relationships, values, and interests that make life meaningful despite physical limitations. The Buddhist concept of anatta offers an alternative perspective. Rather than seeing the self as a solid, unchanging entity that possesses pain, this teaching suggests that what we call self is actually a process, a continuous flow of physical sensations, emotions, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness that changes moment by moment. Pain is just one element in this flow, not an inherent part of who we fundamentally are. Practically speaking, this shift in perspective creates space between the awareness that knows pain and the sensation of pain itself. Instead of "I am in pain," or worse, "I am pain," the experience becomes "there is pain being felt in this body right now." This subtle language shift reflects a profound change in relationship with discomfort. The pain doesn't disappear, but it's no longer defining the entirety of self-experience. A meditation teacher with chronic back pain described this distinction. "For years, I was completely identified with my pain. It was the first thing I thought about every morning and the center of most decisions. Learning to see that pain was happening but wasn't fundamentally me created a kind of breathing room in my experience. There was pain, yes, but there was also awareness that was larger than the pain, awareness that could hold pain as just one part of a much bigger life. This recognition doesn't happen through intellectual understanding alone, but develops through meditation practices that directly investigate the nature of identity and experience. A basic practice involves simply noticing the changing elements of experience as they arise and pass away, physical sensations, including pain, emotions about those sensations, thoughts about what they mean, and the awareness that observes all of these. With consistent practice, most people begin to notice that while pain sensations may persist, their relationship to them becomes less rigid and identified. The sensations no longer feel like me, but like events happening within a broader field of awareness. This shift doesn't diminish the reality of physical discomfort, but does reduce the additional suffering that comes from complete identification with it. The practical benefits of this non-identification extend into daily life with chronic pain. When pain is no longer equated with identity, flare-ups become less emotionally devastating. A pain spike may still limit activities, but it doesn't diminish core self-worth or define the entire day as bad. This emotional resilience often allows people to maintain engagement with meaningful activities despite discomfort. Another benefit appears in social interactions. When we're completely identified with pain, conversations often center around it, and relationships can narrow to caregiving dynamics. The perspective of non-self allows more space for connections based on shared interests and mutual exchange rather than illness narratives alone. Many people report that practicing non-identification helps them remember and express aspects of themselves beyond the patient role. Medical appointments also change with this perspective. Instead of presenting as a chronic pain person, the approach becomes more specific and objective. This body has particular symptoms that need attention. This subtle shift often improves provider-patient communication and reduces the emotional charge of medical encounters, leading to more effective care. The concept of non-self also offers relief from the shame and self-blame that frequently accompany chronic pain. When pain is seen as a defining personal characteristic or failure, it generates negative self-judgment. Understanding pain as an impersonal process happening due to complex conditions, rather than something you are or something you're doing wrong, reduces this unnecessary layer of suffering. A woman with complex regional pain syndrome described this change. "I used to think of myself as damaged goods, fundamentally broken in some way. The pain felt like a personal failing. Understanding that pain is just something happening in this body, not who I am, lifted an enormous weight of shame. I could finally separate my worth as a person from the sensations in my body." It's important to clarify that non-identification doesn't mean disconnection or dissociation from bodily experience. Some misinterpret this teaching as suggesting we should ignore or float above physical sensations. The actual practice involves a clearer, more intimate relationship with experience, seeing it precisely as it is without the distortion of identification rather than turning away from it. The Buddhist understanding of non-self also extends to pain treatments and outcomes. Many people become deeply attached to particular treatments or practitioners, seeing them as saviors or defining successes and failures in absolute terms. The non-self perspective encourages a more flexible, experimental approach where various methods can be tried without excessive attachment to outcomes. This reduces the emotional devastation when treatments don't produce expected results. Practically speaking, how might someone begin working with this concept? A simple starting point is noticing the language used about pain, both in internal dialogue and external communication. Shifting from "I am in agony" to "there's intense pain in the back right now" creates subtle but meaningful distance. Similarly, changing "my fibromyalgia" to "the fibromyalgia symptoms" helps reduce identification. During meditation, you might experiment with mentally noting different aspects of experience as they arise. Sensation for physical feelings including pain. Emotion for reactions to those sensations. Thinking for stories and judgments about what's happening. This simple labeling practice helps distinguish between primary sensations and the layers of reaction that create identification. For those interested in deepening this practice, some Buddhist traditions offer specific meditations on the 5 aggregates form feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness that comprise experience. These systematic investigations help practitioners directly observe how the sense of a solid self is constructed moment by moment and how pain becomes integrated into identity. The real-world impact of this approach becomes evident in how people navigate pain flares. Someone without this perspective might think, "I am completely overwhelmed by this pain. This is destroying my life." Someone practicing non-self might instead notice, "There's very intense sensation right now, and thoughts of being overwhelmed are arising. There's fear present too." This precise, non-identified awareness doesn't remove the challenge but creates space to respond more skillfully. While the concept of non-self provides a framework for changing our relationship with pain at an identity level, Buddhist traditions also offer concrete visualization techniques that work directly with pain perception. These mental practices leverage the brain's remarkable ability to modify sensory experience through directed imagination and attention, far from mere fantasy or distraction. These techniques work with the neuroplasticity of the pain processing system to actually transform how discomfort is experienced. The foundation of Buddhist visualization practice is the recognition that perception isn't a simple, direct recording of physical stimuli, but an active, creative process heavily influenced by attention, expectation, meaning, and context. Our brains don't just passively receive pain signals, they interpret, amplify, dampen, or otherwise modify these signals based on many factors, including our mental state. Visualization techniques deliberately engage this interpretive process to change how pain signals are processed and experienced. Tibetan Buddhism has particularly rich traditions of visualization for working with physical discomfort. One basic practice involves visualizing healing light or energy flowing into painful areas of the body. The practitioner might imagine breathing in light of a specific color, often white, blue, or gold, and directing it toward areas of pain with each inhalation. With each exhalation, they visualize darkness, tension, or discomfort leaving the body. This practice engages multiple sensory modalities, visual imagination, breath awareness, and attention to changing sensations, to create a comprehensive shift in pain perception. A physical therapist who incorporates these techniques with her patients explained, "I was initially skeptical about visualization, seeing it as just distraction or wishful thinking, but both research and clinical experience have convinced me of its effectiveness. When patients learn to visualize healing energy or cooling sensations flowing into areas of inflammation, their pain often decreases measurably. Their muscle tension reduces, circulation improves, and they report feeling more agency in their healing process." Another visualization approach involves transforming the perceived qualities of pain. For instance, if pain feels hot and burning, the practitioner might visualize cooling blue water flowing through that area, gradually changing the sensation's quality. If pain feels sharp and solid, they might visualize it softening, dissolving, or becoming more spacious and diffuse. These techniques don't deny pain's presence but work to make it more manageable by changing its experiential qualities. A woman with neuropathic pain described her experience. "My nerve pain used to feel like constant electrical shocks, sharp, bright, and overwhelming. Using visualization, I practiced seeing these sensations as flowing water rather than electricity. after consistent practice, the quality of the sensation actually began to shift. It didn't disappear but became more fluid and less jarring. This transformation made it much more bearable. Tibetan traditions also include practices for visualizing the subtle energy channels of the body, similar to meridians in Chinese medicine. In these visualizations, practitioners imagine clearing blockages, reducing inflammation, or balancing energy flow through affected areas. While the specific energy systems described may not correspond directly to Western anatomical understanding, the focused attention and intention of these practices create real neurophysiological effects that can modify pain perception. The effectiveness of these visualization techniques is supported by modern neuroscience research on pain processing. Brain imaging studies show that visualization activates many of the same neural networks involved in actual sensory processing. When we vividly imagine cooling or soothing sensations, the brain partially processes these imagined experiences as if they were physically happening, potentially moderating pain signal processing at multiple levels of the nervous system. What makes Buddhist visualization practices particularly effective is their systematic, detailed nature, rather than vague imagery. These techniques employ specific colors, textures, sensations, and sometimes even sounds or smells to create multi-sensory experiences that deeply engage the mind. This rich sensory detail helps counter the overwhelming intensity that often characterizes chronic pain sensations. For beginners, simple practices are often most accessible. A basic approach might start with visualizing the breath as colored light, perhaps cool blue for soothing or warm gold for healing, and imagining it flowing naturally to areas of discomfort. No effort to fix or dramatically change the pain is needed initially. Simply visualizing gentle, compassionate attention flowing toward difficult sensations can begin shifting the relationship with pain. As comfort with visualization develops, the practices can become more elaborate. Some traditions suggest visualizing specific healing deities or enlightened beings as sources of the healing energy. For those uncomfortable with these religious elements, the visualization can be adapted to personally meaningful imagery, perhaps light from nature, support from loved ones, or one's own inner healing capacity as the source of comfort. The timing of these practices matters significantly for effectiveness. Many people find visualization most helpful at pain onset before the sensation becomes overwhelming. Using these techniques at the first sign of a pain flare can sometimes prevent the spiral of physical tension and emotional distress that amplifies discomfort. Others incorporate visualization into regular daily meditation, regardless of current pain levels, to build the neural pathways that support altered pain perception. Duration and frequency also influence results. Brief visualizations practiced many times throughout the day often prove more effective than occasional longer sessions. Some practitioners set gentle reminders, perhaps a small sticker on their phone or watch, to prompt mini visualization sessions during normal daily activities. This consistent reinforcement helps strengthen the neural patterns that support changed pain perception. Environmental factors can support effective visualization practice. Finding a relatively quiet space, assuming a comfortable position, and minimizing distractions helps establish the focused attention needed, especially when learning these techniques. With practice, many people develop the ability to employ these visualizations even in busy environments when pain arises unexpectedly. For those with severe or complex pain conditions, combining visualization with other approaches often yields the best results. Physical interventions like gentle movement, appropriate medication, or hands-on therapies provide a foundation that makes mental techniques more effective. Similarly, addressing emotional components of pain through compassion practices or psychological support creates conditions where visualization can work more powerfully. One particularly valuable aspect of visualization for chronic pain management is its flexibility and portability. Unlike treatments requiring special equipment or practitioner access, these mental techniques are always available once learned. They can be employed during medical procedures, while traveling, or in the middle of the night when other resources might be inaccessible. This constant availability gives people with chronic pain an important tool for self-regulation and comfort. While visualization techniques engage our visual imagination to transform pain perception, sound-based practices offer another powerful avenue for pain management. Mantras and recitations represent one of Buddhism's oldest and most accessible methods for shifting attention and creating beneficial states of mind. These sound practices can be particularly valuable during intense pain episodes when visualization might be difficult to sustain. Mantras are sacred sounds, words, or phrases repeated in a focused, rhythmic manner. In Buddhist traditions, mantras range from simple one-syllable sounds to longer phrases in Sanskrit, Pali, Tibetan, or other languages. Unlike affirmations in Western psychology that work primarily through meaning, mantras function through the combination of sound vibration, rhythm, breath coordination, and focused attention. This multisensory engagement creates powerful effects on both mind and body that can be particularly beneficial during pain episodes. The physiological effects of mantra recitation are well documented. The rhythmic vocalization, whether aloud or silent, naturally regulates breathing patterns, typically slowing and deepening the breath. This respiratory change activates the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest mode, which counteracts the stress response often triggered by pain. Regular, rhythmic breathing reduces levels of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that can increase inflammation and amplify pain sensitivity. Beyond these respiratory effects, the vibration created by voiced mantras can directly impact the physical body. Certain sounds create resonance in different body regions. Lower tones tend to resonate in the chest and abdomen, while higher tones create vibration in the head and throat. Some practitioners report that this physical vibration can temporarily interfere with pain signals, creating periods of relief during recitation. The effect is somewhat similar to how certain frequencies of electrical stimulation can interrupt pain transmission in some medical treatments. The mental focus required for mantra practice also contributes to its effectiveness for pain management. Concentration on sound gives the mind a clear, neutral anchor outside of pain sensations. Unlike distraction techniques that may temporarily divert attention but leave pain unchanged when attention returns, mantra practice trains the mind in stable concentration that can be maintained even when awareness includes discomfort. This developed capacity for focused attention despite pain represents a valuable skill for daily life with chronic conditions. For beginners, simple mantras often work best. One of the most accessible is the sound Om, pronounced AUM, considered in many Buddhist traditions to represent the fundamental vibration of consciousness. This single syllable can be extended for the length of a natural exhalation, creating a soothing vibration that many practitioners find immediately calming. The simplicity makes it easy to remember and use even during intense pain episodes when cognitive capacity may be reduced. Another widely used mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra associated with Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig, the bodhisattva of compassion in Mahayana Buddhism. This mantra translates approximately as "Hail to the jewel in the lotus" and invokes compassionate awareness. For pain management, this connection with compassion can be particularly valuable, as it counters the isolation and self-criticism that often accompany chronic suffering. Some Buddhist traditions include mantras specifically associated with healing or pain relief. The Medicine Buddha mantra, Tayata Om Bekanze, Bekanze Maha Bekanze Radza Samudgate Soha, is recited to invoke healing energy and relieve suffering. While the traditional understanding involves calling upon the Medicine Buddha's healing power, even those approaching these practices from a secular perspective often report beneficial effects from the focused recitation and the intention toward healing it represents. A 42-year-old man with cluster headaches described his experience. During an attack, the pain is so severe I can barely function. I found that repeating the Medicine Buddha mantra gives me something to hold on to during the worst moments. The rhythm stabilizes my breathing, which I tend to hold when in severe pain. I don't consider myself Buddhist in a religious sense, but this practice has become essential in my pain management toolkit. The practical application of mantras for pain management can take various forms. Some practitioners prefer silent recitation, mentally repeating the mantra while focusing on its rhythm and meaning. Others find voiced recitation more effective, using the physical vibration and external sound as additional anchors for attention. The choice often depends on both personal preference and practical circumstances. Silent practice works better in public situations, while voiced recitation might be more powerful during private practice sessions. Mantra practice can be adapted to different energy levels and pain intensities. During severe flares when concentration is difficult, even 3 to 5 minutes of simple mantra recitation can provide meaningful relief. In periods of less intense pain, longer sessions might develop deeper concentration that creates more lasting effects. Many practitioners incorporate mantra recitation into daily routines, perhaps during morning self-care, while commuting, or before sleep, building familiarity that makes the practice more accessible during pain crises. Timing can significantly impact effectiveness. Some find mantras most helpful at the first sign of increasing pain, using the practice to prevent the spiral of tension and anxiety that often amplifies discomfort. Others use mantras during peak pain periods as a way to remain present without being overwhelmed. Still others incorporate mantra recitation during pain-free or low-pain periods, strengthening the neural pathways associated with calm and centered awareness that become accessible resources during more difficult times. Traditional Buddhist practice often incorporates mala beads, strings of typically 108 beads used to count mantra repetitions. These beads provide tactile feedback that helps maintain focus, especially when concentration wavers due to pain. The physical action of moving from one bead to the next creates a rhythm that supports the recitation while also giving restless hands something to do, which can be particularly helpful during pain episodes where physical agitation is common. Many practitioners combine mantra recitation with other Buddhist techniques for a more integrated approach to pain management. For example, mantras might be incorporated into compassion meditation by mentally directing the healing energy of the recitation toward painful areas of the body. Others combine mantras with visualization, perhaps imagining light or healing energy building with each repetition and flowing through the body. These combinations engage multiple sensory channels simultaneously, creating more powerful effects than either practice alone. The beauty of mantra practice for chronic pain lies partly in its accessibility. Unlike some Buddhist practices that require extended instruction or particular physical capabilities, basic mantra recitation can be learned quickly and practiced in virtually any circumstance, while lying in bed during a pain flare, sitting in a doctor's waiting room, or even during daily activities. This availability makes mantras a particularly valuable tool for those whose pain limits mobility or energy for more formal practices. While the individual practices of mantra recitation provide valuable tools for managing pain, the Buddhist tradition emphasizes that spiritual development doesn't happen in isolation. Sangha, the community of practitioners, represents the third of Buddhism's 3 jewels, along with Buddha and Dharma, and plays a crucial role in supporting those working with chronic pain. This communal dimension addresses one of the most challenging aspects of persistent pain: the isolation and disconnection it often creates. Chronic pain tends to separate people from normal social participation in multiple ways. Physical limitations may prevent attendance at regular social events. The invisible nature of many pain conditions can lead to misunderstanding and skepticism from others. The unpredictability of symptoms makes planning difficult and often results in cancelled plans that strain relationships over time. Financial constraints from medical expenses or reduced work capacity further restrict social opportunities. These factors combine to create a profound sense of isolation that compounds the suffering of physical pain. A supportive Sangha, specifically attuned to the challenges of chronic illness and pain, provides an antidote to this isolation. In such a community, The reality of pain doesn't need justification or explanation. It's simply acknowledged as part of the shared human experience. This basic validation often brings enormous relief, especially for those whose pain has been dismissed or minimized in other contexts. A 51-year-old woman with chronic migraine described her experience. Before finding my Buddhist support group, I spent years feeling like I had to defend the reality of my pain to everyone: doctors, family, employers. The exhaustion of constantly justifying my experience was almost worse than the migraines themselves. In our Sangha, no one questions whether my pain is real or suggests I should just think positive. That simple acceptance created space where actual healing could begin. Beyond validation, Sangha provides practical wisdom through shared experience. Members who have lived with pain for years often develop specific strategies for applying Buddhist principles to pain management. These might include modifications to meditation postures, techniques for practicing during severe symptoms, or approaches to specific challenges like medical appointments or workplace accommodations. This practical knowledge, refined through direct experience, complements the theoretical understanding that might come from books or general Dharma teachings. Community support also helps maintain consistent practice, which proves essential for long-term benefits. When practicing alone, it's easy to abandon meditation or other techniques during pain flares precisely when they might be most needed. Regular connection with others committed to similar practices provides motivation and accountability that helps sustain effort through difficult periods. Many Sanghas establish buddy systems or check-in practices specifically to support members through pain flares or health crises. The emotional support provided by Sangha addresses the psychological impacts of chronic pain that can be as debilitating as physical symptoms. Depression, anxiety, and grief commonly accompany persistent pain conditions. Within a supportive community, these emotional struggles can be acknowledged and held with compassion rather than becoming additional sources of shame or isolation. Many practitioners report that simply knowing others understand their emotional challenges brings significant relief. A 38-year-old man with ankylosing spondylitis shared, "In most of my life, I feel pressure to appear positive and hide how much pain affects my emotional state. In our Sangha, I can admit when I'm struggling with despair or frustration without being told to stay positive. That honesty actually helps me move through difficult emotions rather than getting stuck in them. I leave our meetings feeling emotionally lighter, which often translates to less physical tension as well." Sangha takes many forms in contemporary practice, adapting to the specific needs of those with chronic pain. Traditional in-person Buddhist communities might develop special interest groups focused on illness and pain. Other Sanghas form specifically around health challenges, bringing together practitioners from various Buddhist traditions united by their experience with chronic conditions. Online communities have become increasingly important, providing connection for those whose symptoms prevent regular in-person attendance or who lack local resources. These pain-focused communities often modify traditional Sangha structures to accommodate members' needs. Meeting durations might be shorter to prevent symptom exacerbation from extended sitting. Flexible attendance policies acknowledge the unpredictability of symptoms. Multiple meditation posture options, chairs, cushions, even lying down, ensure everyone can participate comfortably. These adaptations embody the Buddhist principle of skillful means, adjusting the form of practice to support its essence. Beyond formal Buddhist groups, the principles of Sangha can extend to healthcare settings. Some hospitals and pain clinics now offer mindfulness-based pain management programs that create temporary communities of practice among participants. These groups combine clinical expertise with the power of shared experience, creating supportive environments where Buddhist-derived techniques can be learned and applied to pain management. The concept of Sangha extends beyond human community to include connection with all forms of life, which offers another dimension of healing for chronic pain sufferers. Many practitioners report that connecting with nature, plants, animals, natural environments, provides relief from the self-focused rumination that often accompanies pain. This broader sense of connection helps contextualize personal suffering within the larger patterns of life, where change, challenge, and regeneration continuously occur. Participating in Sangha as someone with chronic pain isn't always straightforward. Some Buddhist communities maintain expectations around sitting posture, retreat participation, or service work that may be challenging or impossible for those with physical limitations. Navigating these expectations requires both self-advocacy and community education. Many pioneers with chronic conditions have worked to make Buddhist communities more accessible, advocating for inclusive approaches that recognize diverse bodies and abilities. The reciprocal nature of Sangha proves particularly valuable for those with chronic pain. While receiving support is important, equally healing is the opportunity to offer support to others. Chronic conditions often diminish opportunities to contribute meaningfully, leading to feelings of uselessness or burden. Within Sangha, everyone has wisdom to share regardless of physical capacity. The person with decades of pain experience might offer invaluable guidance to someone newly diagnosed, transforming their suffering into a resource that benefits others. A 64-year-old woman with rheumatoid arthritis reflected, "After my diagnosis, I thought my contributions to the world were over. I couldn't work, volunteer, or even maintain my garden. In our Sangha, I discovered my experience itself had value. Now I mentor younger members facing similar diagnoses. My suffering hasn't been meaningless. It's become a source of insight I can share with others walking this path. That purpose has transformed my relationship with pain more than any medication." The communal support found in Sangha addresses the emotional and social aspects of living with chronic pain. But physical well-being requires attention to the body's most basic needs as well. What we eat and how we eat significantly impacts inflammation levels, which directly influence many chronic pain conditions. Buddhist traditions offer valuable insights into nutrition that complement modern scientific understanding of the relationship between diet, inflammation, and pain. These approaches emphasize not just what foods to choose, but also how to consume them with mindful awareness. Buddhist dietary practices vary across different traditions and cultures, but several core principles consistently emerge that have direct relevance to pain management. The foundation begins with the first precept of non-harming, ahimsa, which traditionally leads many Buddhists toward vegetarian or plant-based diets. Modern nutritional science increasingly confirms the anti-inflammatory benefits of diets centered around fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. These plant foods contain compounds called phytonutrients that help regulate inflammatory processes in the body. A registered dietitian who specializes in pain management and practices Buddhist meditation explained, "The connection between diet and inflammation is now well established in research. Many chronic pain conditions, arthritis, fibromyalgia, back pain, neuropathy, have inflammatory components that respond to dietary changes. The typical Western diet, high in processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and industrial seed oils, promotes inflammation, while traditional plant-centered diets like those in many Buddhist communities tend to reduce it. The specific anti-inflammatory compounds found in plant foods include polyphenols in berries and green tea, curcumin in turmeric, gingerols in ginger, and omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts, flax, and chia seeds, cows. Many Buddhist cuisines, particularly in Asian countries, naturally incorporate these ingredients. Turmeric and ginger feature prominently in Thai Buddhist cooking. Green tea is central to Japanese Buddhist traditions, and various nuts and seeds appear in monastery cooking across different lineages. Beyond specific ingredients, Buddhist approaches to eating emphasize moderation, avoiding both overindulgence and extreme restriction. This middle way naturally supports healthy weight maintenance. which is particularly important for pain conditions affected by excess body weight, such as osteoarthritis or back pain. Each extra pound adds approximately 4 pounds of pressure to the knees when walking, so even modest weight changes can significantly impact joint pain. A 47-year-old man with knee osteoarthritis shared his experience. "I was skeptical that diet would affect my knee pain until I tried an anti-inflammatory approach based on Buddhist principles. Within 3 weeks, I noticed less morning stiffness. After 2 months and a modest weight loss of 12 pounds, I could walk twice as far before pain started. The changes weren't instant magic. I still have arthritis, but the difference in my daily comfort level has been dramatic." Perhaps equally important as food choices is the Buddhist emphasis on how we eat. Mindful eating practices transform meals from unconscious fueling into opportunities for cultivating awareness. This approach includes thorough chewing, eating without distractions like phones or television, noticing flavors and textures, and recognizing true hunger and fullness signals. These practices support proper digestion, prevent overeating, and create a more conscious relationship with nourishment. For people with chronic pain, mindful eating offers several specific benefits. First, slowing down during meals helps identify food sensitivities that might contribute to inflammation. Many people discover connections between particular foods and pain flares only when they begin eating with greater awareness. Common culprits include nightshades, tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, eggplant for some arthritis sufferers, gluten for others, or dairy for another subset of pain patients. Second, mindful eating helps regulate stress hormones that can amplify pain perception. Eating while rushing, standing, or multitasking activates the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response, which impairs digestion and increases inflammatory markers. Conversely, sitting calmly and eating slowly activates the parasympathetic rest and digest system, creating physiological conditions that support both proper nutrient absorption and pain reduction. The tradition of offering gratitude before meals in many Buddhist communities also influences how food affects the body. Research suggests that positive emotions during eating, including gratitude, may improve digestion and metabolism. A simple practice of pausing before eating to acknowledge the many beings and processes that contributed to the meal, from farmers to transport workers to cooking effort, creates this beneficial emotional state while also building awareness of interconnection. Buddhist monasteries typically maintain specific eating schedules, with the main meal often consumed before noon and lighter eating, if any, in the evening. While strict time-restricted eating may not be practical for everyone with chronic pain, the principle of allowing the digestive system adequate rest periods between meals aligns with emerging research on intermittent fasting and its anti-inflammatory effects. Many people with inflammatory pain conditions report benefits from extending overnight fasting periods to 12 or more hours. Traditional Buddhist medical systems like Tibetan medicine also offer specific dietary guidance for different constitutional types and health conditions. These approaches consider factors beyond just food content, including preparation methods, temperature, energetic qualities, and seasonal appropriateness. While these complex systems require study or professional guidance to apply fully, they represent sophisticated approaches to using food as medicine developed over centuries of observation. A clinical nutritionist who incorporates Buddhist principles in her practice shared, "Western nutrition tends to focus exclusively on nutrients and calories, the what of eating. Buddhist approaches balance this with equal attention to the how, when, and why of eating. I've seen patients make the same exact food changes with dramatically different results based on these contextual factors. Someone who eats anti-inflammatory foods while stressed, rushed, and distracted gets far less benefit than someone consuming those same foods mindfully in a calm state." Implementing Buddhist-inspired dietary approaches for pain management typically works best as a gradual process rather than an overnight transformation. Many practitioners begin with simple, mindful eating practices, perhaps just one fully attentive meal per day, before making major dietary changes. This builds the awareness needed to notice how different foods actually affect individual pain levels, which can vary significantly between people even with similar diagnoses. The Buddhist emphasis on non-harming extends to self-compassion in dietary choices. Unlike punitive or rigid diet plans that create stress and guilt around cheating, the middle way approach acknowledges that perfect adherence is neither possible nor necessary. This compassionate flexibility proves particularly important for those with chronic pain, who already navigate numerous daily challenges and restrictions. The goal becomes making choices that generally support reduced inflammation while maintaining quality of life and social connection through food. This balanced approach to nutrition represents just one aspect of addressing physical factors in pain management. Equally important is how we relate mentally to pain sensations when they arise. The Buddhist practice of nekkhamma, often translated as detachment or renunciation, offers powerful tools for working with the strong aversion and clinging that naturally emerge in response to physical discomfort. Nekkhamma, in the context of pain management, doesn't mean becoming indifferent to pain or denying its existence. Rather, it refers to releasing the automatic patterns of mental reactivity that typically follow pain sensations. These reactions, wanting pain to disappear, obsessing over when it will end, comparing current experience to pain-free memories, or projecting catastrophic futures, often create additional suffering beyond the primary physical discomfort. The practice begins with recognizing these habitual patterns of aversion and attachment as they arise. When pain occurs, we naturally generate thoughts like, "I can't stand this," or "this needs to stop immediately." Stop. With mindful awareness, we can observe these thoughts as mental events rather than absolute truths that must be believed or acted upon. This recognition creates a small but crucial space between the pain sensation itself and our mental response to it. A 60-year-old woman with chronic pelvic pain described this process. For years, the instant pain increased, my mind would launch into a familiar script. "This is terrible. I'll never have a normal life. Why isn't the medication working?" These thoughts created tension and anxiety that made everything worse. Learning to recognize this pattern as just habitual thinking, not reality, was my first real breakthrough. The pain didn't disappear, but a significant portion of my suffering did. Nekkhamma involves specifically recognizing and releasing two common forms of mental reactivity to pain. The first is aversion, the desperate desire for pain to go away, coupled with resistance to current reality. The second is attachment, clinging to memories of pain-free periods or fixating on future relief. Both these mental positions remove us from direct experience of the present moment and generate additional tension that often amplifies pain. Practically speaking, how does someone cultivate this quality of detachment toward pain? One approach involves deliberately noting the arising of aversive reactions when pain increases, rather than being swept away by thoughts like, "I can't bear this." The practitioner mentally notes aversion arising or simply wanting it to be different. This labeling helps identify the reaction as a temporary mental event rather than an integral part of the pain experience itself. Another technique involves purposely shifting attention to include awareness of pleasant or neutral sensations that coexist alongside pain. When strong discomfort is present, attention naturally fixates exclusively on the painful area. With practice, we can expand awareness to notice that other body parts may feel relatively comfortable, or that certain aspects of current experience, perhaps the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of breathing, or the support of a chair, are actually pleasant or neutral. This broader perspective doesn't eliminate pain but prevents it from completely dominating consciousness. The quality of detachment also applies to pain's impermanence. Even in chronic conditions, pain fluctuates in intensity, location, and quality. Detachment means neither grasping desperately at moments of relative comfort. Finally, relief. I hope this lasts forever. Nor sinking into despair during intense episodes. This is unbearable and will never end. Instead, we develop the capacity to observe pain's changing nature without excessive reactivity in either direction. A meditation teacher with rheumatoid arthritis explained this balanced awareness. Before understanding nekama, I lived on an emotional roller coaster, elated during low pain periods and devastated during flares. This exhausting cycle actually consumed more energy than the pain itself. Learning to meet each day's experience with more equanimity has been transformative. I still prefer less pain to more, obviously, but I'm no longer emotionally hijacked by these natural fluctuations. Importantly, detachment from pain reactivity doesn't mean abandoning appropriate pain management. Taking medication, working with healthcare providers, and making lifestyle adaptations remain essential aspects of skillful pain care. The difference lies in the mental relationship with these approaches, using them judiciously without desperate clinging to outcomes or falling into despair when results are imperfect. Developing this detached perspective typically happens gradually through consistent practice. Many people begin with brief periods of observing less intense pain before attempting to work with severe episodes. Regular meditation builds the capacity to recognize mental reactions as separate from physical sensations, making it increasingly possible to experience pain without being consumed by aversion to it. The practice of nekama extends beyond formal meditation into daily activities. When pain arises during work, social interactions, or household tasks, we can briefly note the aversive reaction, wanting this to stop, without being completely identified with it. This momentary recognition often reduces the tension and mental proliferation that would otherwise amplify suffering, allowing continued engagement with meaningful activities despite discomfort. The practice of detachment from pain reactions offers valuable mental space from habitual patterns, but Buddhist teachings go further in explaining how pain actually arises and persists. The principle of interdependence or dependent origination, pratityasamutpada in Sanskrit, provides a sophisticated framework for understanding the complex interplay between mind and body in the experience of pain. Rather than viewing pain as either purely physical or purely mental, this perspective recognizes the intricate web of conditions that create our pain experience moment by moment. The basic insight of interdependence is that nothing exists independently. Everything arises due to multiple causes and conditions working together. Applied to chronic pain, this means that what we experience as my back pain or my migraine isn't a solid, independent entity, but rather a dynamic process involving physical sensations, thoughts, emotions, past experiences, and behaviors all influencing each other in real time. This interconnected view offers multiple points where we can intervene to change our overall pain experience. A pain management specialist who incorporates Buddhist principles in her practice explained, "The traditional medical model often treats pain as primarily a physical problem with physical solutions. The psychological model might view it primarily as a mental or emotional issue. But the reality patients live with is much more complex and interactive. Physical sensations trigger thoughts, which generate emotions, which create muscle tension, which amplifies sensations, and on it goes in a continuous feedback loop. Understanding this interdependence gives us many more tools for intervention. We can see this interdependence clearly in common pain experiences. A person with chronic back pain might feel a twinge when moving, physical sensation, which triggers the thought, oh no, it's getting worse again, cognition, leading to fear and frustration, emotion, causing them to tense their muscles and limit movement, behavior. This tension and guarding then increases the original pain sensation, reinforcing the negative thoughts and creating a self-perpetuating cycle. The beauty of recognizing this interdependence is that it reveals multiple entry points for breaking these cycles. Someone might begin with physical interventions like gentle movement or relaxation techniques. Another person might focus first on changing thought patterns through mindfulness or cognitive practices. Someone else might address emotional components through self-compassion or Tonglen meditation. Because the system is interconnected, positive changes in any dimension tend to influence the others as well. A 49-year-old man with post-surgical chronic pain described his discovery of this interconnection. I used to think my pain was purely physical, something wrong with my nerves after surgery. But I began noticing patterns that didn't make sense in that model. The same physical activity could hurt terribly one day and feel manageable the next, depending on my stress level, sleep quality, or even the weather. Understanding how these factors all influence each other has completely changed my approach. Instead of focusing exclusively on physical treatments, I now work with this whole interconnected system. This interdependent perspective helps explain why pain often persists even when initial tissue damage has healed. Neural pathways become sensitized, muscles develop guarding patterns, fear of movement emerges, activity decreases, social isolation increases, sleep quality diminishes, and all these factors maintain pain in a complex web of interactions that extends far beyond the original injury site. This understanding doesn't mean the pain isn't real, but rather that its reality involves this entire interconnected system rather than just localized tissue damage. Modern pain science strongly supports this interdependent view. The neuromatrix theory of pain recognizes that pain perception involves multiple brain regions processing not just sensory input but also emotional states, cognitive interpretations, past experiences, cultural context, and numerous other factors. This scientific model aligns remarkably well with the Buddhist understanding of interdependence developed thousands of years earlier through careful observation of human experience. Practically speaking, how might someone apply this understanding to their own pain management? One approach involves mapping the specific interconnections in personal pain patterns. This might start with simply noticing the sequence of events during pain episodes. What sensations precede increased pain? What thoughts typically arise? What emotional states tend to accompany or precede flares? What behaviors result? This careful observation often reveals patterns and relationships that weren't previously obvious. Once these patterns become clear, interventions can target specific links in the chain. Someone who notices that anxiety consistently precedes pain increases might prioritize anxiety reduction techniques. Another person who observes that certain thought patterns like catastrophizing intensify their suffering might focus on cognitive approaches. Someone else might discover that specific movement patterns or postures reliably trigger flares and work primarily on biomechanical adjustments. A physical therapist who teaches Buddhist mindfulness alongside traditional rehabilitation shared, "I encourage patients to become scientists studying their own experience. When they discover the specific ways their thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and sensations interact, they gain much more agency in managing their condition. Instead of feeling at the mercy of random pain flares, they begin to understand the conditions that contribute to both suffering and relief." The interdependent nature of pain also explains why multidimensional approaches typically yield better results than single-modality treatments. Programs that combine physical therapy, mindfulness training, cognitive techniques, emotional support, sleep improvement, and nutrition often produce outcomes superior to any of these interventions alone. This comprehensive approach addresses the entire web of conditions maintaining pain, rather than focusing on isolated components. Understanding interdependence also helps patients navigate the healthcare system more effectively. Rather than feeling frustrated when a purely physical intervention doesn't completely resolve pain, they can recognize that addressing other dimensions of their experience might be equally important. This perspective supports more productive conversations with healthcare providers and more realistic expectations about treatment outcomes. For daily life with chronic pain, This understanding of interdependence offers practical guidance for breaking pain cycles before they escalate. Someone might notice early warning signs, perhaps increased stress, poor sleep, or subtle changes in physical sensation, and intervene promptly with appropriate self-care rather than waiting until pain becomes overwhelming. This proactive approach acknowledges the interconnected conditions that lead to pain flares and works skillfully with them. A 53-year-old woman with fibromyalgia described applying this approach. "I used to think of pain as something that happened to me randomly, like bad weather. Now I see how various factors interact to create my experience. If I'm not sleeping well, my pain increases. If I'm worried about a deadline, my muscles tense and pain spikes. Understanding these connections lets me intervene earlier. Sometimes addressing stress or improving sleep does more for my pain than pain medication itself." The concept of interdependence also helps address the isolation often experienced with chronic pain. When pain is viewed as a discrete physical problem located solely in one's body, it can feel deeply isolating, something happening only to you, separating you from others. Recognizing pain as arising from multiple interconnected conditions that everyone experiences to some degree, stress, emotions, thoughts, physical sensations, can create a sense of shared humanity. Your specific pain pattern may be unique, but the basic processes creating it are universal. This understanding of how various factors interact to create pain experiences provides a natural bridge to one of the most powerful Buddhist practices for transforming suffering: Tonglen meditation, which originated in Tibetan Buddhism, offers a radical approach that directly counters our instinctive responses to pain. While our natural tendency is to avoid or reject discomfort, Tonglen invites us to move toward it with compassion, transforming both our relationship with our own pain and our connection to others who suffer. The word Tonglen translates as taking and sending or giving and receiving. In its most basic form, the practice involves visualizing breathing in suffering, your own and others, and breathing out relief, healing, and compassion. This deliberately reverses our habitual pattern of grasping at pleasure and pushing away pain. While this might initially sound counterintuitive or even masochistic, practitioners consistently report that it creates a profound shift in their experience of difficult sensations, emotions, and situations. A meditation teacher who has worked extensively with chronic pain patients explained, "When we constantly fight against pain, we create tension, stress, and isolation that actually amplify suffering. Tonglen offers a different pathway. By willingly opening to discomfort with compassion rather than resistance, something transformative happens. The sensation itself might not immediately change, but our relationship to it shifts dramatically. Many people describe a sense of spaciousness and peace emerging even while physical discomfort remains." The basic Tonglen practice begins with connecting to your own experience of difficulty or pain without immediately trying to fix or change it. You acknowledge that this is hard right now and recognize your natural wish for relief. This honest acknowledgement creates the foundation for the practice. Then, with each inhalation, you visualize breathing in this difficulty as a dark cloud or smoke. And with each exhalation, you imagine breathing out relief, ease, or whatever quality would help in this situation, often visualized as light. As the practice develops, it expands beyond your personal experience to include others experiencing similar challenges. You might think, "Just as I'm experiencing this back pain right now, countless others are also dealing with physical discomfort. May I take in the suffering of all beings with this condition, and may I send out relief and ease to everyone." This expansion beyond personal suffering to shared human experience is key to Tonglen's transformative power. A 45-year-old woman with chronic migraines described her experience. "Tonglen completely changed how I approach pain episodes. Before, I'd become tense and resentful, feeling victimized by my condition. Now, when a migraine begins, I think of everyone else experiencing head pain at that moment, thousands or millions of people across the world. Somehow, recognizing that I'm not alone in this experience makes it less overwhelming, and wishing for their relief alongside my own creates a sense of purpose and connection even during difficult hours. The physiological effects of Tonglen practice are significant for pain management. Research shows that resistance to pain, mentally fighting against it, typically increases muscle tension and stress hormones, which amplify pain signals. Conversely, the compassionate acceptance cultivated in Tonglen activates parasympathetic nervous system responses associated with relaxation and healing. The practice also stimulates brain regions involved in positive emotion and affiliative feelings, which research shows can directly modulate pain perception. Beyond these physiological changes, Tonglen addresses the emotional suffering that often accompanies physical pain. Chronic conditions frequently trigger feelings of isolation, helplessness, and resentment that compound physical discomfort. By connecting personal experience to the universal nature of suffering, Tonglen diminishes isolation. By transforming passive helplessness into active compassion, it restores a sense of purpose and agency even when pain cannot be immediately eliminated. For those new to the practice, beginning with mild or moderate discomfort is usually recommended. During a low-level pain episode, you might sit quietly and establish awareness of the sensation without immediately trying to change it. Then begin the rhythmic practice of breathing in discomfort, visualizing it perhaps as a dark cloud, and breathing out relief, visualizing light or coolness. After becoming familiar with the technique during manageable pain, you can gradually apply it during more challenging episodes. Tonglen can be adapted for different capacities and circumstances. During intense pain flares when concentration is difficult, even 3 to 5 breaths with this intention can be beneficial. The visualization elements can be simplified to just briefly imagining darkness coming in and light going out, or even just holding the basic intention of the practice without elaborate imagery. Some practitioners find it helpful to place a hand gently on the painful area while practicing, combining compassionate touch with the mental components. A hospice nurse who uses Tonglen both personally for chronic back pain and professionally when working with patients shared. What makes this practice so powerful is that it works at multiple levels simultaneously. Physically, it helps you relax around pain rather than tighten against it. Emotionally, it transforms fear and isolation into compassion and connection. Spiritually, it helps you find meaning in difficult experiences. I've seen patients with severe pain find moments of peace through this practice, even when medications weren't fully controlling their symptoms. The counterintuitive nature of Tonglen, moving toward rather than away from suffering, often raises questions for beginners. Many worry that focusing on pain will increase it, or that taking in others' suffering will somehow add to their own burden. In practice, most find the opposite occurs. The compassionate engagement with difficulty creates a sense of spaciousness around pain rather than amplification, and connecting with others' experiences typically diminishes rather than increases personal suffering by reducing the isolation and self-focus that often accompany pain. The transformative nature of Tonglen practice reveals how ancient Buddhist methods can address pain at profound levels. Yet these approaches don't exist in isolation from other healing modalities. Throughout history, Buddhist traditions haven't just developed meditation techniques but also comprehensive medical systems for addressing physical suffering. These traditional approaches, when thoughtfully integrated with contemporary Western medicine, create possibilities for more complete pain management than either system alone might provide. This integration represents a growing trend in pain treatment that combines the best of ancient wisdom with modern scientific advances. Buddhist medical traditions emerged thousands of years ago across various Asian cultures, including Tibetan medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and Ayurveda, which, while primarily Hindu in origin, shares many principles with Buddhist approaches. These systems approach pain and illness very differently from conventional Western medicine, seeing health as a state of balance among various bodily systems rather than simply the absence of disease or symptoms. A distinctive feature of Buddhist medical traditions is their holistic perspective. They don't separate physical symptoms from mental states, emotional patterns, environmental factors, or spiritual dimensions. This integrated view aligns remarkably well with contemporary understanding of chronic pain as a biopsychosocial phenomenon affected by biological processes, psychological factors, and social context. What traditional Buddhist physicians intuited through careful observation over centuries, modern pain science has increasingly confirmed through research. Dr. James Morton, a pain specialist who incorporates traditional approaches alongside conventional treatment, explained, "Traditional Buddhist medicine recognized the mind-body connection thousands of years before Western science caught up. They understood that emotions affect physical health, that dietary choices influence pain levels, and that addressing subtle imbalances before they become major symptoms is more effective than waiting for disease to develop. These insights are now being validated by research into areas like psychoneuroimmunology and the gut-brain axis." Tibetan medicine, perhaps the most distinctly Buddhist medical system, classifies pain according to which of three principles, called doshas, is out of balance: alung, wind; tripa, bile; or badkan, phlegm. Each type requires different treatment approaches. Wind-related pain, typically sharp, migrating, and variable, might be treated with warming therapies, specific dietary adjustments, and calming practices. Bile-related pain, often burning, inflammatory, and intensified by heat, might receive cooling treatments and bitter herbs. Phlegm-related pain, generally dull, persistent, and worse in cold, damp weather, might be addressed with warming, drying therapies and pungent herbs. This sophisticated classification system often identifies patterns that don't fit neatly into Western diagnostic categories, but nonetheless describe many patients' experiences accurately. Someone diagnosed simply with chronic low back pain in Western medicine might receive a more nuanced understanding through Tibetan analysis of which energy imbalances are creating their specific pain pattern, leading to more personalized treatment. Traditional Buddhist medical systems employ various physical therapies for pain relief that complement meditation practices. These include specific forms of massage, acupuncture or acupressure, moxibustion, applying heat to acupuncture points, cupping therapy, and herbal medicine. Modern research has begun validating many of these approaches. Acupuncture, for instance, has been shown effective for various pain conditions in multiple clinical trials and is increasingly covered by insurance plans. A 56-year-old construction worker with chronic shoulder pain described his experience with integrated care. "After 3 years of cortisone shots and physical therapy with limited results, my doctor suggested trying acupuncture at a clinic that combines Eastern and Western approaches. The practitioner looked at things nobody had considered: my digestion, sleep patterns, even emotional states, and developed a treatment plan involving acupuncture, herbs, and specific qigong movements. Within 6 weeks, I had better function than at any point since the injury. The conventional treatments helped manage symptoms, but this approach seemed to address deeper causes." Herbal medicine represents another significant contribution of Buddhist medical traditions to pain management. Formulations developed over centuries contain plants with anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and nervous system modulating properties. Modern pharmacological research has confirmed the active compounds in many traditional remedies. For example, turmeric's curcumin has demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects comparable to some pharmaceutical drugs in clinical studies. Other botanicals like boswellia, corydalis, and white willow bark, which contains salicin, a precursor to aspirin, have also shown effectiveness for specific pain conditions. The integration of these traditional approaches with modern medicine requires thoughtful navigation. Quality and standardization can vary widely in herbal supplements. Certain traditional treatments may interact with pharmaceutical medications, and some conditions require immediate conventional medical intervention regardless of traditional perspectives. The most effective approach typically involves collaboration between practitioners from both traditions who respect each other's contributions and limitations. Dr. Sarah Chen, who trained in both Western medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, described the ideal integration. The best outcomes happen when we use each system for what it does best. Western medicine excels at emergency intervention, specific diagnoses, and certain targeted treatments. Traditional approaches offer more sophisticated understandings of prevention, constitutional differences between patients, and the relationships between seemingly unrelated symptoms. When practitioners from both traditions work together respectfully, patients benefit from this combined wisdom. For individuals with chronic pain, exploring this integrated approach typically begins with conventional medical diagnosis to rule out serious conditions requiring immediate treatment. With this foundation established, traditional perspectives can offer additional insights and complementary therapies. Many integrative pain clinics now employ practitioners trained in both systems who can help patients navigate this complex landscape and develop comprehensive treatment plans. A 42-year-old woman with endometriosis pain shared, "After my diagnosis, surgery helped initially but didn't resolve all my symptoms. Through my Buddhist meditation community, I found a clinic offering traditional Tibetan treatments alongside conventional care. They suggested specific dietary changes, an herbal formula, and abdominal massage techniques based on the Tibetan understanding of my constitution. These approaches, combined with continuing Western pain management, have given me more good days than I've had in years. Neither system alone was enough, but together they've made a real difference." Beyond specific treatments, Buddhist medicine offers valuable philosophical perspectives on pain management. Traditional approaches emphasize patient empowerment through lifestyle modifications, self-applied therapies, and understanding one's own constitutional tendencies. This focus on active participation contrasts with more passive approaches where treatment is something done to the patient rather than a collaborative process. This philosophy aligns well with modern pain management's increasing emphasis on self-management skills and patient education. Buddhist medicine also recognizes the importance of prevention and early intervention. Traditional texts describe how subtle imbalances, if left unaddressed, eventually manifest as more serious conditions. This preventive orientation is particularly valuable for chronic pain conditions, where addressing early warning signs and maintaining balanced health practices can often prevent full-blown flares or slow condition progression. As research continues, the evidence base for many traditional approaches continues to grow, facilitating more meaningful integration with conventional care. Mindfulness meditation, once considered alternative, is now recommended in many conventional pain management guidelines. Acupuncture has become a standard offering in many hospital-based pain clinics. Herbal anti-inflammatories like turmeric are being studied in rigorous clinical trials. This evolving evidence helps bridge the gap between traditional wisdom and modern scientific standards. For those interested in exploring this integrated approach, finding qualified practitioners remains crucial. Ideally, providers should have formal training in their traditional system alongside understanding of conventional medical approaches and current research. Many major medical centers now offer integrative medicine departments that provide this combined expertise, making these approaches more accessible than in previous decades. The balanced perspective offered by integrating traditional Buddhist medicine with modern approaches creates a comprehensive framework for addressing the complex experience of chronic pain. Neither system alone provides all the answers, but together they offer both immediate symptom management and deeper healing possibilities. This integration represents not a rejection of either tradition, but a recognition that human suffering and its relief has many dimensions requiring multiple approaches working in harmony. While these integrated medical approaches address the external aspects of managing pain, Equally important is developing internal balance through specific mental qualities. Chronic pain naturally creates emotional volatility, periods of hope followed by disappointment, times of relative ease punctuated by overwhelming flares, moments of acceptance disrupted by frustration. This emotional rollercoaster often depletes energy and compounds suffering beyond the physical sensations themselves. The Buddhist quality of equanimity, upekkha, offers a powerful antidote to these fluctuations, providing stable ground amidst the changing landscape of chronic pain. Equanimity, one of Buddhism's four sublime states, or Brahmaviharas, refers to a balanced state of mind that remains steady through life's inevitable ups and downs. It's often described as a spacious, centered awareness that neither clings to pleasant experiences nor rejects unpleasant ones. This quality doesn't mean cold detachment or indifference, but rather a warm, engaged presence that maintains perspective regardless of current circumstances. For people with chronic pain, this balanced awareness becomes particularly valuable as pain levels naturally fluctuate over time. A meditation teacher who specializes in working with chronic illness explained, "Pain conditions tend to throw people between extremes, either fighting against reality or giving up in despair. Equanimity offers a middle path, clear-eyed acceptance of current reality without surrendering to hopelessness. It's the quality that helps you acknowledge a pain flare without being emotionally devastated by it, or experience a good day without anxiously clinging to it. This emotional stability conserves enormous energy that would otherwise be lost to these swings." The practical development of equanimity begins with recognizing how much suffering comes from resistance to the natural fluctuations of experience. When pain decreases, we typically grasp at this improvement, thinking, "Finally, I hope this lasts forever." When it inevitably increases again, disappointment and frustration arise. "I thought I was getting better. This is terrible." These emotional reactions create additional tension and stress that often amplify the underlying physical sensations. A 62-year-old man with peripheral neuropathy described his experience. "Before learning about equanimity, I lived at the mercy of my pain levels. On low pain days, I'd be elated and overdo activities, which usually triggered worse symptoms. On high pain days, I'd fall into depression and catastrophic thinking. The emotional whiplash was exhausting. Learning to meet each day with more balance has been life-changing. I still prefer less pain to more, obviously, but I'm no longer emotionally hijacked by these natural variations." Formal meditation practices can systematically develop this quality of balanced awareness. One traditional approach involves contemplating the phrase, "All beings are the owners of their karma," or in contemporary language, "Everyone experiences the results of their actions." This reflection helps develop understanding that what happens in life results from countless conditions, many beyond our control. Applied to pain, this perspective helps reduce the common feelings of unfairness, "Why me?" or failure, "What did I do wrong?" that create additional suffering beyond physical sensations. Another practice involves mindfully observing pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral experiences with the same quality of attention. When something pleasant occurs, perhaps a moment of reduced pain or an enjoyable activity, we practice noticing it without immediately grasping or trying to prolong it. When something unpleasant happens, such as increased symptoms or treatment side effects, we observe without immediate aversion or rejection. This balanced attention gradually recalibrates our habitual reactions to different experiences. Beyond formal practice, developing equanimity involves working directly with the changing nature of pain in daily life. This might mean consciously noting the beginning of reactivity during a pain increase. Frustration is arising, and choosing to respond with more balance. It might involve deliberately acknowledging good moments without anxiously trying to hold on to them. These small interventions in habitual reaction patterns gradually develop a more stable relationship with changing experience. The quality of equanimity proves particularly valuable during medical treatments and interventions. Many people with chronic pain experience a cycle of high hopes followed by crushing disappointment as treatments fail to provide expected relief. Each disappointing outcome reinforces hopelessness and makes future treatments more anxiety-provoking. Equanimity offers a middle path, remaining open to possible benefits without excessive attachment to outcomes. This balanced approach reduces the emotional devastation of treatment disappointments while remaining receptive to helpful options. A pain psychologist who incorporates Buddhist principles in her practice observed, "Patients with strong equanimity navigate the healthcare system much more effectively. They can try new treatments with appropriate hope but without desperate attachment to results. They provide clearer information to providers because their reporting isn't coloured by extreme emotions. And they make more balanced decisions about interventions, weighing risks and benefits realistically rather than grasping at anything that promises relief." Equanimity also transforms relationships affected by chronic pain. Family members and friends often struggle to understand the unpredictable nature of many pain conditions, why someone could participate in activities yesterday but not today, or why symptoms change without obvious causes. Without equanimity, these misunderstandings frequently lead to conflict, with the person in pain feeling unsupported and loved ones feeling confused or helpless. Developing greater emotional balance helps communicate about these fluctuations more clearly without the charge of frustration or defensiveness. A 48-year-old woman with migraine described this change. "My family used to walk on eggshells around me, never knowing which version of mom they'd get, the relatively okay one or the irritable one in severe pain. As I've developed more equanimity, I can communicate about my symptoms without the emotional volatility that used to accompany pain increases. This has completely changed our family dynamic. My condition still affects everyone, but the emotional drama around it has decreased significantly." It's important to clarify what equanimity is not. It doesn't mean pretending pain doesn't exist or matter. It doesn't require suppressing authentic emotions or maintaining a false positive attitude. It's not about lowering expectations for improvement or giving up on finding effective treatments. Rather, equanimity means meeting whatever arises, the full range of physical sensations, emotions, and circumstances with a steadiness that prevents extreme reactivity in any direction. The development of equanimity takes time and practice, especially for those who've lived with chronic pain for years and developed habitual response patterns. Many find it helpful to begin practicing during relatively stable periods before attempting to maintain balance during intense flares or medical crises. Like any skill, equanimity develops gradually through consistent effort rather than through immediate transformation. For those interested in cultivating this quality, many Buddhist centers offer specific programs on the Brahma Viharas that include equanimity practice. Secular mindfulness programs for chronic pain also increasingly incorporate these techniques, recognizing their particular value for conditions involving unpredictable symptom fluctuations. Books, apps, and online courses focused specifically on equanimity provide accessible starting points for those unable to attend in-person training. The true test of equanimity comes not during meditation, but in daily life with chronic pain, during symptom flares, treatment disappointments, misunderstandings from others, or the countless small losses that chronic conditions often entail. The capacity to meet these challenges with balanced awareness directly reduces suffering even when pain itself remains present. This quality doesn't eliminate the very real challenges of living with persistent pain, but provides stable ground from which to navigate them with greater ease and less unnecessary suffering. A woman who had lived with fibromyalgia for over 20 years summarized the value of equanimity. "Pain has taken many things from me, but it's also given me the opportunity to develop this remarkable quality I might never have cultivated otherwise. The ability to stay centered when everything is changing around you and within you is a gift that serves not just in managing pain, but in facing every challenge life brings. Of all the treatments and approaches I've tried over 2 decades, developing equanimity has made the most profound difference in my quality of life.